7 of 2021 as a special bill concerning the county governments to provide inter alia for the equitable allocation of revenue raised nationally among the county governments for the 2021-2022 financial year. Whereas the said bill was passed by the Senate on Thursday, 3rd June 2021, and referred to the National Assembly for consideration in accordance with the provisions of Article 110(4) of the Constitution. And whereas the National Assembly also passed the said bill on Wednesday, 16th June 2021, without amendment, in the form passed by the Senate. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 110 of the Constitution and Standing Orders 41(1) and 144 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the said decision of the National Assembly to the Senate. Honorable Senators, I wish to inform you His Excellency the President assented to this bill on Wednesday, 30th June 2021. I thank you. Second message. Honorable Senators, I wish to bring to the attention of the Senate that on Tuesday, 18th June 2021, pursuant to Standing Order number 41(3) and 4, the clerk delivered to me a message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the message of the National Assembly of the Land Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 54 of 2019. The message, which is dated 14th June 2021, was received while the Senate was on recess and was transmitted to all senators on the 18th June 2021, pursuant to Standing Order number 41(5). Further, pursuant to the standing orders, I now report the message. Pursuant to the provisions of the Standing Order 41(1) and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the following message from the National Assembly. Whereas the Lands Amendment Bill, National Bill number 54 of 2019, is a bill that seeks to amend the Land Act 2012 so as to provide that where public land has been allocated to a public body or public institution by the National Land Commission or public purposes, or where land is set aside by persons or land buying companies for public purposes, the Registrar of Land under the Land Registers Act 2012 shall issue a certificate of titles in the name of the public body or public institution or relevant ministry, as the case may be. And whereas the National Assembly considered the bill and passed it on Thursday, 13th May 2021, without amendments in the form attached thereto. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 110 of the Constitution and Standing Orders 41(1) and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey that the decision of the National Assembly to the Senate. Honorable Senators, you will recall that following the High Court ruling on 29th August 2020 on Constitutional Petition number 284 of 2019, implementation of the judgment by the Senate commenced. Notably, the High Court ordered that all bills for which the concurrence process contemplated under Article 110(3) of the Constitution could not be demonstrated be ceased, and that the said concurrence process be adhered to before introduction of such bills in either House or Parliament. Honorable Senators, the Land Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 54 of 2019 is one such bill, for which the concurrence process pursuant to Article 110(3) of the Constitution had not been demonstrated by the time the High Court gave its judgment. As such, the bill ought to be aligned to Article 110(3) of the Constitution, following which the bill will be read a first time in the Senate. In view of the foregoing, the Land Amendment Bill, National Bills number 54 of 2019, as received from the National Assembly by the message dated Monday, 14th June 2021, will not be proceeded with in the Senate. I thank you. Next order.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
The statement. Papers, the majority leader. Majority leader.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, 6 July 2021. 1, the East African Community Sexual Productive Health Bill. 2, report of the East African Legislative Assembly Committee on Agriculture, Tourism and Natural Resources on the oversight activity.
Honorable Senators, kindly let us consult in low tones because we need to follow what's happening in the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. 2, report of the East African Legislative Assembly Committee on Agriculture, Tourism and Natural Resources on the oversight activity on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on food security in the East African Community, ESC, adopted at the 5th meeting of the 4th session of the 4th Assembly held between 9th to 29th May 2021 in Arusha, Tanzania. 3, report of the East African Legislative Assembly Committee on Accounts on the status of implementation of the Assembly's recommendations on the East African Community ESC audited accounts for the East African Health Research Commission and the East African Kiswahili Commission for the financial year ended 30th June 2017 and 18, adopted at the 5th meeting of the 4th session of the 4th Parliament held between 9th and 29th May 2021 in Arusha, Tanzania. 4, the Public Finance Management Sinking Fund Guidelines 2021. 5, annual reports of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, SRC, for the financial year 2019-2020. 6, the Architects and Quantity Surveyors Continuing Professional Development Bylaws 2020. 7, the National Government Budget Implementation Review Report, first 9 months, financial year 2020-2021, May 2021. And finally, on 8th, report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of the County Assembly of Vihiga for the financial year ended 30th June 2019. Sorry, Madam Speaker, it's not the end. It is continuing. 9th, the report of the Auditor General on the statements of Nairobi City County Executive for the year ended 30th June 2019. 10, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of the County Assembly of Nairobi City for the year ended 30th June 2019. 11, report of the Auditor General on the statements of the County Assembly of Kericho for the year ended 30th June 2019. 12, report on the Auditor General on the financial statement of Kiambu County Assembly for the year ended 30th June 2019. 13, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Kiambu County Executive for the year ended 30th June 2019. And lastly, number 14, special audit report for the Auditor General on the utilization of COVID-19 funds by the county government of Narok. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Senator Wetangula, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to congratulate the Majority Leader. For the first time, this House has received reports from the East African Parliament. For the last about 8 years we have been in existence, we have never received reports from the East African Parliament. And I hope that the Senate Business Committee will find it necessary to create time and list these reports for our debate in furtherance of our commitment to the integration of the East African region. Madam Speaker, there is very little interaction between national parliaments and IALA, which ideally serves as the link between the legislatures of the member parliaments of the East African community states. So this new window, to which I salute the majority leadership, is a very good and innovative way of bringing to fore and the senators of the Republic of Kenya what goes on in IALA and how we as a region must debate, understand, and appreciate that our destinies are tied together. What happens in Kenya or Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, or South Sudan concerns all of us. This is a very, very good development, Madam Speaker. We must have time to debate this.
Thank you, Senator. Do we have the chair committee of health? Because there are two statements from the ministry, from the committee of health. Deputy chair? Then I think we can defer the report, the presentation of the two papers. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
The first statement is by Senator Senator Kanini, you said that you want to make only one or two statements, but you can go ahead.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the floor. Yes, indeed, under 47, I have 3 statements. These are statements that I had filed way back in March. One is on the 3rd wave of COVID and the COVID-19 vaccine. The other one is on unemployment caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And the last one, Madam Speaker, is on export of bananas and broccoli to South Africa. Madam Speaker, 2 of them, I need to update some statistics on them. So if you allow me, I will issue the statement on the third wave of COVID and the COVID-19 vaccine. Then if I can get an opportunity, I can do the others tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, Senator, you can go ahead.
I thank you. Madam Speaker, pursuant to the Standing Order number 47, paragraph 1, I rise to make a statement on an issue of general topical concern, that is the third wave of COVID-19 and the COVID-19 vaccine. Madam Speaker, 15 months since Kenya recorded its first COVID-19 case in March of 2020, the country has had more than 184,537 confirmed positive cases, more than 126,594 have recovered, and nearly 3,640 people have succumbed due to the virus. Madam Speaker, at the start of this pandemic, the President, in conjunction with the Minister of Health, put out strict regulations and protocols that positively curbed the spread of the virus. Political gatherings were banned, major parts of the country's social and economic life were shut down, wearing of masks was made mandatory, and social distancing became the order of the day. Kenyans exhibited togetherness, took personal responsibility, and were very vigilant in handling themselves during this trying time. It was then assumed that the second wave would come stronger than the first and affect more Kenyans. Due to this, everyone was very careful and observed the set protocols. However, due to the awareness and preparation, we waved through it with no many casualties as was expected. Madam Speaker, just when we thought the worst had passed, on the second week of March 2021, almost exactly a year after the first case of COVID-19 was reported in Kenya, a third wave of the virus was officially announced. This came as a shock and caught many off guard. It was a more aggressive strain and therefore claimed more lives at a faster rate than the first and second waves combined. The Africa CDC noted that the positivity rate went up to 26.6% in March 2021, and the country's total official death rate for the third wave increased by more than 13%. Madam Speaker, because of the third wave, there was a significant increase in the number of patients in the ICU, on ventilators, and in need of oxygen, and the situation was only worsening by the day, causing hospitals to experience a complete lack of bed capacity and machinery to treat patients. Sick Kenyans were being forced to pay hefty amounts just to book and wait for beds and treatment. There was an upsurge of patients, hospitals were overflowing, and it was quite unfortunate that once again, the government seemed to have been unprepared in the handling and management of the affected Kenyans, especially because of schools, which were previously being used as isolation centers, were back in session. On March 3rd,
From the national government on how to tackle this pandemic, how to tell people how to avoid infections, and as we go to elections, Madam Speaker, we want the political class of this country to understand and appreciate that even as we are looking for public offices, we owe a duty to our country not to endanger the population by recklessly engaging in rallies that endanger people's lives, Madam Speaker. Thank you, and I congratulate Senator Haniri for bringing this statement.
Honorable Senators, I see a lot of interest on this and already made a ruling, but for the sake of the importance of the topic, yes, can we allow 5 minutes, please? Senator Faria.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me opportunity to contribute to this matter, and I wish to thank Senator Khaniri, who always brings, statements and motions that are so relevant and current in terms of information and how they impact our country. Madam Speaker, there is needless to say that the impact of COVID-19 has a greater impact in this country in terms of lives lost, and in terms of, during lockdowns, in terms of the economic, gains that Kenyans lose. And Madam Speaker, I want to agree with Senator Wetangula that as we endeavor to popularize ourselves, let's be very, very careful with the lives of Kenyans. Because if we care about this country and the people we want to support, then the least you should do is to engage in an activity that can cause, a lot of spread of the disease, so that when there is next lockdown, the same people that you claim to care about are the first ones to be affected when there is lockdown. Because people with small businesses, when there is lockdown, those are the ones who are affected more. Imagine the mama mboga who sells mboga, when there is lockdown, she can't sell her food to, her vegetables and fruits to a hotel, because hotels will be the first ones to be closed when there is a pandemic. And now the same mama will not have money to buy food, to pay school fees, to pay rent, and we normally claim that we care for the lower people on the pyramid, yet you are out there spreading the disease further. Madam Speaker, let us be a little bit more humane, as even when we want to tell people that, we want to sell our, our manifestos and how we are going to impact this country in the future. Let us not talk about the future. You're killing the present generation. How will you even reach that future, Madam Speaker? So, Madam Speaker, it pains me so much every time I see very big crowds of people, youth and small,
Yes, I don't see your intervention, but what's the point of order?
There must be a problem with the cards, Madam Speaker, because I had already pressed. Is it in order for a government chief whip, a deputy whip of the majority side, Madam Speaker, to come to the floor of this House and criticize his party leader, the president, who, Madam Speaker, held a big rally in Kisumu, Mr. Speaker, which now stand out to even stronger measures, Madam Speaker, on COVID in the western part of the country. And to do it, Madam Speaker, without blinking, as a deputy majority whip, what has she done? What conversation has she had with the president who occasioned that very big function in Kisumu that has caused this country a big problem, Madam Speaker?
What's your point of order, Senator Wetangula?
Madam Speaker, is it in order for the distinguished Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet to raise such a frivolous point of order when at the time he served here with distinction as the majority leader, towards the end of his term, he spent all his time and energy criticizing the government and the president that he wants to purport to defend now?
Senator Faria, are you stating facts or you are criticizing your president? Just continue. Yes.
Madam Speaker, Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet claims that I am criticizing my president, yet he is one of the chief people who are, among the crowds who are even spreading. Let the Kisumu one, but even you're spreading it, even in Nairobi. So you're a super spreader yourself, Senator. Let us not throw stones for nothing, Madam Speaker. When you live in glass house, don't throw stones when you live in a glass house. Madam Speaker.
Senator Murkomen, what's your point of?
Madam Speaker, well acknowledge that, Madam Speaker, like Senator Wetangula said, that I did a lot of serious criticism of how government was being run, which perhaps cost me my position. Is the Deputy Majority Whip ready to take political responsibility for criticizing the President of the Republic and our party leader, Madam Speaker, on the floor of this House? Let alone escapism of trying to say Murkomen at a meeting in Nairobi. Madam Speaker, can she produce a single evidence where Murkomen has held a rally in Nairobi? I can produce enough evidence, Madam Speaker, of how the President and the people he works with, Madam Speaker, caused serious havoc in Kisumu. And we are not joking. You know, Madam Speaker, you think this is a joke. It's not. The same government that held a big meeting that caused the worst spread of COVID in the western part of the country is the same government that has put measures that is punishing so many women and hustlers and border people in the western part of the country.
Are you debating or you are on
No,
a point of
my
order?
point is this.
Your point
is she in order, Madam Speaker,
Yes.
to try to run away from the reality that, Madam Speaker, the government held a big function in Kisumu, which has caused problems in the western part of the country, up to Trans Nzoia. And that, Madam Speaker, is she willing to take political responsibility for criticizing the head of state and still serve as a deputy minority whip, majority whip?
Senator Faria, kindly, please wind up. I think you are, please wind up.
Madam Speaker,
Oh,
you have to allow me to respond appropriately because...
Yes, Senator, hold on. I can see Senator Orengo on an intervention.
Madam Speaker, really the point that I wanted to make is that this point that has been brought out by Senator Vihiga is so serious that the moment we begin to belittle it looks like we are just in a marketplace enjoying ourselves about who is criticizing the president and who is not. I think that, the Senator for Vihiga has been so consistent on this pandemic issue that let us not lose the point. A lot of people are dying, and we are all guilty. We are all guilty. If you look at the super spreaders, we are all guilty. If you look at the meetings which have taken place in Nairobi in the last 2-3 days, the super spreaders are known. So, Senator Murkomen, with all the respect I have for you, but on this one, you're on the wrong note because, before you criticize the minority leader, Deputy Minority Chief Whip, I've been Chief Whip, you should have started with your two leaders. Actually, you are in a very unique position. You've got a leader in UDA and you've got a leader in Jubilee. So I don't want you to stand up, which one will you defend?
Senator, Honorable Senators, I think we need to make progress on this matter. And being part of our responsibility to stop the spread of COVID virus, I think I want to suggest that we put on our masks at all time. And even as you speak, kindly just speak with your mask on. That will give us a good example that will give a good example to the people out there. Yes, Senator James Orengo, Senior.
Oh, have you finished?
You are not through? Honorable Senator, I'm giving you only 1 minute to conclude. Just conclude, please.
Okay. Madam Speaker, without naming anyone, Kisumu, everybody was there, including the leader of UDA, so let us not go there. Madam Speaker, the other thing I wanted to say is that I lost my paternal uncle on 18th of May. So it also pains me. And he was the only living, he was elder brother of my mom, and he was the only living maternal uncle that I had. So these things are home now in terms of the losses that we are facing. So let us not belittle who is to blame for what. But at your own level, please be responsible enough to ensure that Kenyans are saved from this pandemic and don't be part of a super spreader. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Senator James Orengo, Leader of Minority.
Madam Speaker, this is a very critical question, not facing just Kenya, but the entire world community. And I think it is important to go through the statements that we have made in this House, beginning with the special committee that was established by this House, and look at what kind of contribution we have made to impact the fight against this pandemic. But more importantly, I think I would agree with those probably who hold the view that the government of Kenya has not come out more aggressively and in a very orderly fashion to show us how they have fought this pandemic and what they're going to do in the future, particularly because now we have got new variants, and getting 2 jabs at any particular time is not an assurance that one will not get the pandemic. Some countries are now beginning to get an oversupply of the vaccines. In Africa, we are doing extremely badly in terms of the stock that we have of the vaccines. I think the government should come out clearly to tell us in the next 2, 3, 4 months what percentage of the population are they going to be able to give vaccines to, and what other concrete measures are being taken. Because I'm afraid as this virus mutates from one variant into another, the problem is going to get more and more compounded. And those that are using the money that are given for purposes of fighting this pandemic, I hope we will have one day a special motion to discuss them. Because I believe those who have eaten money that are meant to fight this pandemic, in all seriousness, they are not better than those who commit the offense of genocide. And we cannot be afraid to say so. And I want to urge the government agencies that are dealing with those who are playing around with the funds that have been allocated for the fight against this pandemic. You are not doing a great job. In the United States of America, within 1 year of Trump's presidency, his own colleagues in government were serving jail terms. Now, in our situation, somebody can run away with murder, and year go, you don't hear of any results at all. And I plead that in relation to this, the fight against this pandemic, nobody should be excused when they mess around with the lives of Kenyans. But more importantly, we need to know in the next 2-3 months, how many loads of vaccines are we going to get, and from where, and which vaccines are good for which variant, because it looks like the variants from India are getting into our country with the intensity that probably we cannot be able to determine. But I want to congratulate the Senator for Vihiga, Senator George Haniri, for being very constant on this matter. And Senator Sakaja, I want to come around and join him together with Kasanga, because I think this is one issue that will make and break some of us here in terms of being remembered for causes that you fought for. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Wambua Enoch. Senator for Kitui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to also make a comment on this statement. I want to join my colleagues to actually thank Senator Vihiga for bringing up this statement. But Madam Speaker, remember when the Senator Vihiga was making this statement, he mentioned that there are other statements that are lined up and at the risk, Madam Speaker, of anticipating debate, I would actually look forward to that very serious conversation around that statement on unemployment occasioned by COVID-19. So when that time comes, Madam Speaker, we'll deal with it. For now, Madam Speaker, allow me to say the following. That, Madam Speaker, and I've heard my leader here, the minority leader, saying that we are all guilty when it comes to spreading the virus, and that's very true. That's very true, Madam Speaker. The only difference is the magnitude of the guilt. You know, some people are more guilty than others, but we are all guilty of spreading of this virus. Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank, and I know this should not actually be my duty. This perhaps should have been the duty of the whip, to thank the wisdom of the handlers of the President of our Republic. Madam Speaker, the President was supposed to be in Kitui, Machakos, and Makueni this week, but in view of the spread of the virus and cognizant of what happened in Kisumu, the advice has been given and taken that we stop these public engagements in our region and wait for such a time that it will be okay to have huge public gatherings and opening of projects and all that. And Madam Speaker, that speaks to wisdom and responsibility. We have a duty as leaders in this country, Madam Speaker, to take care of the health of our people, to make sure that we don't expose them to unnecessary dangers on the spread of this COVID. Madam Speaker, there has been a lot of talk about really this COVID millionaires and billionaires and the money that people have squandered. Known people who are known have squandered money that was set aside to fight the spread of the virus. Madam Speaker, I do agree with my leader that perhaps we need to have a special motion to discuss what are we going to do with people who have taken money meant to combat the spread of the virus and put it into private use. What punishment should be met on such people? Madam Speaker, that should not exclude. And you see, when we say these things, people say, oh, you're politicizing this issue. There is no politics around this thing. Madam Speaker, I come from a county that benefited from COVID funds like any other county. And the county government of Kitui decided, because there can never be treatment for COVID, now this money we invested in post-COVID initiatives. Madam Speaker, some of these decisions that are being made in the counties on the expenditure of monies meant to combat the spread of the virus. Madam Speaker, when that time comes, then we need to ask ourselves very, very serious questions. Madam Speaker, I want to conclude by saying that yes, I have congratulated and applauded government for the wisdom to postpone the rallies and the meetings in Lower Eastern Region. But Madam Speaker, it does not make any sense to anyone to lock down an entire region and just sit back. If you are locking up an entire region, then you must lock it to do something. Vaccinate people, fumigate public spaces, Madam Speaker. When this thing came, there was a lot of fumigation that was taking place all over, especially in public places in urban areas. That we want to see a return of that.
Senator Kajwang Moses Otieno, Senator for Homa Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As a senator of one of the counties that has recently been locked down, I'm very glad that today, through Senator Kaniri, we have started, on a pod reception, we have started with the subject of COVID, which is killing our people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if we try to politicize and try to assign blame on this matter, we will never get to the bottom of it. Donald Trump tried it with China, and he found himself at home. The issue before us is an issue that requires concerted efforts to find a solution. And Madam Speaker, allow me to talk about only 2 issues. And for me, it is an appeal to the people in the regions where we come from. The first is the issue of accuracy of data that the nation is consuming. And secondly is the issue of stigma, Madam Speaker. On the issue of data, Madam Speaker, the national government, if it wants to ensure that Kenyans are following the protocols and the laws and regulations that have been put in place, it needs to give Kenyans accurate data. All of us here, every other weekend, Madam Speaker, there is a week where I had more than 30 appeals for funerals in just one ward, out of 40 wards in Mutembei County. And in that particular week, the national government is telling us that there could be just about 20 deaths in the entire week. We should not try to look good by giving numbers that are doctored. I wish that Mutahi Kagwe, who has been a senator who has sat in this chamber, I wish they would do the right thing and tell Kenyans the extent to which this disease is ravaging Kenyans. All of us here, every single senator, be it elected or nominated, every other day you are added to a WhatsApp group. And the people who are dying are the elderly. Our young people who are riding border borders, Madam Speaker, they think that they are immune to this. And that feeling of immunity is fueled by the fiddling of numbers by the government. And I want to ask the Health Committee and the other COVID committee, if it still exists, that we must pressurize the government to give us the right numbers so that we know the precautions to take. Secondly, Madam Speaker, is the issue of stigma. Many of these deaths, when we go for the funerals, that is in case you have to go for the funeral, because all of us have lost a relative or a friend. And you'll find yourself in a situation where you form part of the nuclear family that would have to bury that person. It is emerging in our regions, Mutembei County, Kisumu, Migori, Siaya, that people do not want to accept that COVID is killing people. Madam Speaker, something must kill a man. And it could be COVID. It could be cancer. It could be malaria. But where there are clear cases and an autopsy has been conducted and someone has left us on account of COVID, I want to encourage our people that there is nothing shameful about admitting that COVID killed a brother or a sister, a father or a mother. Because when we don't declare, and when we go to these funerals and say that this person was poisoned while in a drinking den, or this person had malaria, you encourage impunity. You make people start feeling that COVID does not exist, that COVID is a disease that is domiciled in Nairobi. And yet, Madam Speaker, our mortuaries are full. Go to all the mortuaries in Western Kenya. If you came to Mutembei County, if you go to a very popular mortuary called Kirindo Home for the Dead, there are bodies on the floor. And Madam Speaker, the saddest bit is that they are the bodies of the elders, our church leaders, our mothers, people who we really respected, and for them to find themselves on the floor of a mortuary because of recklessness on our part. Madam Speaker, finally, the only solution to the problem we face is vaccination. And I was glad that recently the President realized that we have to vaccinate 26 million people. My challenge to the Health Committee is that instead of just focusing on counting the coins, this is a time that we need to ask the government what plan of action they are going to put in place to vaccinate 26 million people when over the last 6 months they've only managed to vaccinate 1 million people. Madam Speaker, this thing is real, this thing is killing people. Let's encourage our people to comply.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Sakaja Johnson Arthur, Senator for Nairobi.
I'll just talk from here. Madam Speaker, I seek, or rather I'd like to thank Senator George Kaniri for raising this statement. Madam Speaker, if you recall, there's a time this Senate really had the bird's eye view on all matters concerning COVID in this country when we had the ADO committee. There were 9 thematic areas that we were looking at, and we had weekly reports. I think it might be time for the Senate to reconsider setting up a similar committee. and led by different people, because this matter is cross-cutting, and it's almost like the country has dropped the ball when it comes to looking at COVID. We've relaxed, we've let our guard down, yet the numbers are crazy. And I just agree with, I agree 50% of what Senator Murkomen has said, that indeed in Nyanza there's a problem. Just 2 weeks ago, we've had, in the last 2 weeks, so many people and our friends from there. In fact, tomorrow, a good friend of mine, Bishop Weli Odendo, is burying his mother, who died of COVID in CI, Madam Speaker. We have a big problem. So let us think of what to do with respect to, again, oversighting. These agencies, when we were oversighting them in that committee, you could see the efforts they're making. They would come back, report to us, and there was progress. Madam Speaker, the second thing I want to address on this issue is a matter that we are forgetting. One of the reports we brought to this House dealt with cushioning the economy. And that was businesses, that was special groups. This morning we've just had a meeting as a Labour Committee with the creative sector, the musicians, the artists, the filmmakers. They are still suffering because they depend on performances in the evenings, they depend on selling their music, they have gotten nothing. We have audited, or rather we've asked for accountability on the 100 million shillings that was offered to them, and we've been given a list. And in as much as some got something, it was a drop in the ocean. And we thank the President for the 100 million, but we need to think of better ways to cushion. But Madam Speaker, we're talking at a time, if you remember last year, the President reduced taxes in certain areas. VAT was reduced by 2%, pay-as-you-earn was reduced by 5%, and Madam Speaker, other taxes were paused. In fact, many counties were even waiving licensing requirements. But at this time, when it is hitting the hardest, Madam Speaker, we are seeing the finance bill passed by the National Assembly, and in fact, one of the measures which was passed last year takes effect this year, where cooking gas, Madam Speaker, has gone up by 350 shillings. Madam Speaker, remember, the common mwananchi, the woman out there, has been told not to use charcoal because it's leading to deforestation. We are not cutting down trees. But when gas goes up by 350 shillings during a pandemic, Madam Speaker, Kenyans are really, really suffering. So I'm calling on this House. I know on matters of tax or matters of budget, all we can do is to appeal to the National Assembly, but we must review those provisions. We must bring back those lower taxes on VAT and pay-as-you-earn, and those levies on fuel and gas. Fuel affects every aspect of society, Madam Speaker, and that is the appeal that I'm making. I think that needs to be taken seriously. Everybody we represent is affected by that increase in cooking gas, Madam Speaker. Finally, as Senator Wetangula said, my distinguished uncle, the issue of vaccines. The US has vaccinated 60% of its people. In fact, when we were there, people are almost being bribed or incentivized to go get a vaccine. You're told you get a free Uber ride, free taxi ride to a vaccination center. Some people are giving you, if you go get vaccinated, you get a burger and a Coke. In Kenya, we're saying we vaccinated 1 million, in fact, less than 1 million people out of 50 million people. Madam Speaker, that is a drop in the ocean. The only weapon we have against this COVID is vaccination. I think we must raise this issue. The Health Committee must tell us the plan. We heard what the President said. We want more. We cannot, as a country, wait for donations of vaccines. Yet we're spending billions on infrastructure. Who is going to use that infrastructure if our people are dead, Madam Speaker? We must get our people vaccinated. So I thank Senator Kaniri, but I hope as the Senate, and I wish the leadership was here, I can only see Senator Orengo, the leader of minority. Just allow me to finish that point. Senator Orengo.
One minute, Senator.
Yeah, even a minute is too much. Senator Orengo, together with the leadership, kindly consider restarting the ad hoc committee. This is the time when you need a bird's eye view on these issues. Let's get even another team to lead it. But the Senate was giving leadership to the whole country, to all agencies, when it came to COVID. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Ali Abdullahi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also wish to thank Senator Ghanidi for bringing this statement. Madam Speaker, COVID is real, whether people want it or not, but Kenyans are not very serious people, from the top to the bottom, and that's the reality. When we are here, we are talking about how serious this issue is. But when we live here, we all indulge ourselves in other things. Most of the members in this House and the leadership of all political parties have been misbehaving in this country from day one. From day one. Let me say the way things are, Madam Speaker. Because if you don't want to say the truth, then we are going to die, all of us. The fact of the matter is the leadership of this country is not serious when it comes to COVID. Because what you were just told as if, you know, it's a press conference, 10 people died, 20 are like this. This is this. That will not help this country. But from there, everybody goes, and there are super spreaders everywhere. The latest was just recently, over the weekend in Nakuru. It is happening every other day. How are we going to stop the spread of COVID when our leadership wants to show themselves to the public, to mamambogas, to borders, and they want 100 and 200 border people riding with them? This is not right. This is not fair. I think the leadership have to look into these issues and stop for once. At least when we say we have banned these things, then it should mean that these issues of meetings should stop, Madam Speaker. Number two, as it has been stated here, and everybody knows the fact of the matter, COVID, the only way, even ourselves here, many of us have gotten COVID here, but nobody wants to say it. We are hiding it. I want to congratulate the senior, the AG Emeritus, for saying during, I was not there, but I saw him when it was, what was it called? The National Prayer Breakfast. Everybody should come out and say it. If I'm afraid to say that I got COVID, every member here who got it should come out and tell their people they got COVID. This thing is this serious. This is what I've undergone. If you don't want to come out and say it, how do you expect the issue Senator Kajwang talked about of stigma, how will it end? This is how AIDS started the first time in the 80s, and that's how it spread, because everybody wants to talk about it. So COVID, there is nothing to hide about COVID. COVID is not even, that one was related to some promiscuity or something. But this one has nothing to do with it. You are getting it from the air. You are getting infected. This is just common cold, which has become, a problem because of the way it is, because it's a super spreader. So if we fear to talk about it, if we don't want to talk in the churches about it, if in the mosques people want to stand next to one another, they don't want to wear masks. If in the churches people want to do the same thing, if every day we want to hold public rallies, where even those ones, the leadership do not want to wear masks. If when we go to funerals, we don't want to wear masks, and you know this person died of COVID, you don't want to talk about it, how are we going to stop this thing? So let's stop the blame games. Let everybody take responsibility. Let's tell our people the truth, and the truth will make sure that we don't suffer the way as much as we are suffering now. In Wajir, recently, some 2-3 days ago, we lost our county assembly, a young man in the county assembly of Wajir. And when I saw, when they went for the burial, I was shocked. 3/4 of the people who were there, none was wearing masks. If you go to Wajir, nobody wears a mask. Let me be frank with you. When we go to some meetings, you find 1 or 2 people are the ones who are wearing. Sometimes, forget about even checking your hands. People want to hug you. This is how serious the problem is, Madam Speaker. So Kenyans, please, let's take care of these things. Let's be serious, and the leadership should be at the forefront. Thank you very much.
Senator Amos Wako, Senator for Busia.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak on this very important subject. And I sincerely congratulate my brother, young brother, Senator George Haniri, for having made this statement on a matter of national concern, and for, from time to time, drawing our attention to matters of national concern. COVID, I just want to say about 4 things. One, we are aware that the health function is a devolved function. And as I congratulate the government led by the president on the steps they have taken to deal with COVID, to the extent where, although we are concerned when we hear about what's going on in other countries, then we say we are slightly better off than those other countries who did not take appropriate action in time. So I congratulate the president for leading us on this. But let us all the time remember that health is a devolved function. And the Senate, we are here for counties. And I'm also sure that we have put mechanisms in place to be able to monitor on a regular basis on the preparedness of county governments to deal with this epidemic. Madam Speaker, I believe that if the COVID had caught me at home, the seriousness of it, I would not be here standing talking in this house, because I would have gone to the county referral hospital, and although they say they have they have an ICU, the 4 beds are not operational. Nothing is operational there because connections have not been done, lack of oxygen, lack of everything. I would have died. And I'm sure the way I see things, most of the county referral hospitals are in a similar situation. The other day, there was a demonstration in Busia County against the referral hospital. And the chief officer even admitted that they have no money to buy food for the patients. I've seen similar demonstrations in Kajiado and elsewhere. And therefore, we as Senate must put in place mechanisms to see why is this. Part of it could be the releases from counties not being sent on time. We should be able to tackle that so that the national government gives the counties money in time. Because unless they do that, I tell you, we are going to face a very worse problem, particularly we people who come from the COVID-19 hot zone. And speaking on the issue of figures, which the Senator of Mutembei was saying, we must have accurate figures. The other day, the father of my personal assistant at home was hospitalized in Busia. His conditions got worse, and it was COVID. Went to another hospital in Busia, it got worse. Went to the best in Busia, it got worse. But fortunately, Senator Moses Tangula, he was admitted in Bungoma Hospital, where after 1 month in hospital, he has now been cured, which is good. But he did a survey in the village, and 70 people were tested for COVID. And out of the 70 people, 38 were found to have COVID. 38 who did not know that they had COVID. They were just moving around the marketplace, going here and there. Business as usual. A positivity rate of almost 30%. And therefore, that's why sometimes I wonder whether the figures we are given are accurate. I think the situation may be far much worse than the figures which we are actually given. And therefore, the solution to me is that we must vaccinate as a matter of urgency, in fact, as a matter of national emergency.
Senator, your time is up. Senator Murkomen, Kipchumba, Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank Senator Khaniri, who has been consistent in bringing statements to this House, not just on COVID, as has been said by others, but on many other issues that are of topical importance to the public and to the people of Kenya. And so when the history of this House is written, Senator Khaniri will not only be remembered for his strict observance of the standing orders, but also in terms of bringing very important amendments here, not for Vika alone, but affecting the rest of the country. Number two, it's a shame, Madam Speaker, that more than a year and 2 months since COVID was announced in this country, we are still debating as a country on the elementary issues. We're still talking about social distance. We're still talking about masks. We're still talking about, Madam Speaker, not holding meetings and curtailing freedoms under Article 38 of the Constitution. Other countries of the world have moved from there. And what made other countries to move? It is the commitment, the decision to channel resources to where it mattered most. It was discovered that vaccination was going to make a difference in terms of opening up countries all over the world. We all know that United States of America 2 days ago on 4th celebrated their Independence Day, and their president announcing that it's not just an ordinary celebration of an Independence Day, but celebrating also independence from COVID and the freedom of the people of the United States to interact without the strictures of the masks, without the social distance, because over 70% of its population was vaccinated. In the UK, the Prime Minister yesterday announced, Madam Speaker, that they have now opened the stadium for all football supporters to full capacity. In the next 2 weeks, will be watching football from their stadium. Those of us who are following the Euros 2020, Madam Speaker, will know that the other day when Hungary was playing with other teams, their stadium was filled to capacity because they had vaccinated their people. This country should be extremely ashamed. The leadership of this country should be extremely ashamed to be having conversation about don't do a rally here, don't go to church, don't go for this meeting. That is backward, that's useless, Madam Speaker. This nation at the moment should be discussing about 20 million Kenyans have been vaccinated. We should be saying everybody who is above 50 years has been vaccinated. We should be discussing in July 2021 that the country has been opened and no one should fear coming to this nation for tourism because Kenya has vaccinated more than 70% of its population. What are we doing? We're discussing about mundane things about there was a rally here, there should not be a meeting here, we should not do these kind of things. Yet, a lot of our resources are being channeled to useless things. Things to do with changing the constitution, Madam Speaker. Things to do with paying lawyers to defend a process of changing the constitution. Things to do with going for retreats to discuss on how to manage succession of the outgoing president. Madam Speaker, the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta, particularly at this period of pandemic, should have been to ensure that Kenyans are vaccinated, the country is free, it is open, we will go to the next election. We should be by now, Kenyans by now, should be enjoying the Article 38 freedoms. They should be interacting with their leaders. We should be having campaign rallies that are full to their capacity. Sportsmen and women who are suffering across the country, Madam Speaker, who are not training for football, they don't have funds in the football stadium, the athletes who should be enjoying their sports time, Madam Speaker, are still going through the strictures of social distance, don't sit here, don't use this stadium. Madam Speaker, this is shameful. Despite all this conversation, we all know, and we were discussing with Senator Abdullahi here, the Senator of Wajir, despite all this, the country has been given a lot of money from the World Bank, supposedly or ostensibly, to finance the issues to do with COVID. Where is that money going? Some of the money is being channeled to county governments. I haven't seen anything in my county that shows that there is anything being done to do with COVID. And you know, you go across the country, the people are suffering. If you go to Nyanza, that Senator Kajwang was talking about, and I had a discussion with him about Mutembei, people are dying like flies. Why? Because there are no health facilities. People cannot get oxygen. Madam Speaker, this is an issue that should prick our conscience. We must rechannel the resource of this country to vaccinate Kenya.
Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed, Senator for Mombasa.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuchangia statement ya Senator Vihiga, Senator Khaniri. Kwanza Mheshimiwa Spika, nampongeza Senator Khaniri kwa kulizungumzia swali hili ambalo ni swala nyeti sana katika nchi yetu ya Kenya na jamhuri kwa jumla. Mheshimiwa Spika, janga la corona kutoka mwanzo lilipoingia, tuliona kwamba kulikuwa na utepetevu kwa upande wa serikali kuhusiana na vipi wataweza kupambana na janga hili. Na sisi kama bunge la Senate, Mheshimiwa Spika, tuliunda ile kamati maalumu ya COVID ambayo ilifanya kazi nzuri sana, japokuwa muda wake ulikwisha na ikafunga virago. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati kamati hii ilipokuwa inakaa, ilikuwa tunapata kila wiki tunaweza kushauriana na vitengo tofauti vya serikali kuhusiana na swala hili, na hili tupa fursa ya kuweza kujua hali halisi ilivyo katika nchi yetu. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, kamati muda wake ulipokwisha, na kwa vile hakuchagua kamati nyingine, mambo yakawa yanakwenda bila ya mwelekeo wowote. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama alivyozungumza Senator Murkomen, tungekuwa sasa tunazungumzia ni wangapi wamepata chanjo. Tuliona Amerika alipochukua Rais Biden aliweka ahadi kwamba kwa muda wa siku 100 atavaccinate watu milioni 300, na ameweza kuthibitisha kwamba watu milioni 300 wamepata vaccines. Hapa kwetu Mheshimiwa Spika, tunakwenda hatua 2 mbele, tunarudi hatua 5 nyuma. Tunakwenda hatua 2 mbele, tunarudi hatua 5 nyuma. Kwa mfano Mheshimiwa Spika, tumezungumzia haya mambo ya social distance kwa muda mrefu, mambo ya kuvaa barakoa kwa muda mrefu, lakini mpaka sasa bado ukienda mitaani wananchi bado hawajakuwa tayari kuvaa wala kufanya social distance. Mheshimiwa Spika, majuzi nimewahi kusafiri kwenda Zanzibar, na kwa kweli Mheshimiwa Spika, kule hakuna social distance, hakuna barakoa, hakuna masuala yoyote ya COVID, hata COVID yenyewe pia hakuna. Na hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, watu wanaishi maisha yao kawaida. Kwa hivyo serikali ingekuwa imeamua kwamba hili si janga tukaishi kama kawaida, ni janga, ni mikakati gani ambao wameweka kuhakikisha kwamba wananchi wanalindwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuongezea hii kusuasua ya serikali, na wakati fedha nyingi zimeletwa kupambana na janga hili, imesababisha watu kukosa imani na zile kanuni ambazo wananchi wanapewa kuthibitisha kutekeleza, wakati serikali yenyewe haitekelezi. Kwa mfano Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi wanaoambiwa kwamba wavae barakoa, wakishikwa na polisi wanawekwa ndani, inabidi kutolewa hongo ili waweze kutoka. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, wale ambao wameiba pesa za COVID, wale ambao wameiba pesa katika KEMSA, wote hakuna hata mmoja ameweza kufikishwa mahakamani kushtakiwa na kuhukumiwa kwa swala hilo. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, hatuwezi kuwa na nchi ambayo, asante Mheshimiwa Senator Wetangula, hatuwezi kuwa na nchi ambayo inafanya mambo kinyume. Yataka tufanye mikakati ya kisawasawa kuhakikisha kwamba tumepambana na COVID. Mheshimiwa Spika, la mwisho ni kwa wale ambao wanasafiri kwa mfano kwenda nchi jirani ya Tanzania, kwa sasa wanatakikana kuwa na certificate ya COVID kwamba negative, na wakiingia Tanzania Mheshimiwa Spika, kupitia mpaka wa Horohoro, wanalazimishwa kuchukua testi nyingine ya COVID pale kwa $25 kwa kila msafiri. Mheshimiwa Spika, ikiwa wanaosafiri kwa ndege wanatumiliwa sheria nyingine tofauti na wale wanaoshiriki kwa basi, na maana kwamba hatujakuwa tayari sisi kama nchi kupambana na janga hili. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tunapozungumzia ni lazima sisi kama bunge aidha tuirejeshe tena ile kamati ya COVID ili iweze kupambana na masuala haya siku kwa siku, ili tuone kwamba wananchi wetu
there at this time when people are dying of COVID-19. Madam Speaker, I would also talk about the curfew, and especially the police. When they meet people, even after COVID, after curfew hours, they should be gentle to the people and request them to go home safely. I saw on media somebody from my county of Machakos at Josica, an elderly man who was beaten so much that he cannot even help himself right now by a police because he's outside. He went to rescue his son after the son was arrested after curfew hours. This should not be done. This should not be seen in the current Kenya. People can talk, people can engage nicely, and if they arrest them, take them.
Senator Algura Godana, Senator for Mosabit.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank Senator.
Just 1 minute. What did you want, Senator? I think you are off. You are offline. You are offline. Just switch. Yeah, you can conclude.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I would have said more, but my time is up. Let's do something about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Algura.
Khaniri for bringing up this issue of national concern. Madam Speaker, COVID has been around for some time now, and it's affecting the whole world, and the rest of the world, mostly the developed world, have come up with ways of responding to this pandemic so that people can go back to their normal lives, and that is the responsibility of every government. At the beginning, when it started, yes, there were some measures to cushion the members of the public through tax exemption and all that, but that was removed. The government also has been spending money on COVID-related issues for a long time, which for some of us is even a mystery because we don't know what these activities the government is spending money on. The only thing we know is the first time when they got money, there was the issue of KEMSA, which became a scandal. Nobody wants to talk about it, but that was supposed to have been procurement of PPEs and masks so that the members of the public can be protected, but that one did not go anywhere. There was a case of these 270 billion shillings at the beginning where the counties were given a paltry 6 billion out of that. The rest was kept by the national government, but we don't know what the government is doing with it. What we have just seen is lockdown after lockdown. It was the whole country, coast, the 5 counties around Nairobi, now it's in the Lake region. That's the only thing they are doing. But actually the government is supposed to create an environment to enable Kenyans to go back to their normal life, just the way other countries have done. They should have invested all this money in vaccination. Now we are just relying on donations, as if we don't have any money of our own, but we have been borrowing. The latest borrowing from I think IMF or World Bank was COVID-related, but nothing has been done. So I think it's high time the government takes it serious. We don't have to assume that this thing will go away on its own. The government has to put its resources and time in making sure that all Kenyans are vaccinated so that we have that herd immunity. Then we can now go back to our normal daily activities of nation building. Kenyans can go back and earn their livelihoods. Unlike now, where most of people are out of jobs and still the curfew is on, but the government is not doing anything. We thought that was, while we were being subjected to these measures, the government should be doing something in terms of vaccination, in terms of providing the necessary protection, in terms of developing the health facilities, so that Kenyans can now live with this pandemic, which is worldwide. There's nothing we can do about it, but we have to protect ourselves against it. Unfortunately, we are not seeing anything like that. So mine is to urge the government that whatever funds they are spending should be used in buying the vaccines so that Kenyans can get vaccinated instead of waiting for donations while we are wasting the money which we are getting. Some of them is even loans which we have to pay while it's being not used on the intended purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Algura. Senator Wario Golich Juma, Senator for Tana River.
Asante sana Bi Speaker kwa kunipatia nafasi hii ili niweze kuchungia statement ambayo imetolewa na rafiki yangu Senator Khaniri. Kwa kweli wakati huu Bi Speaker, wa Kenya wengi wameishi katika hali ya hofu kutokana na ugonjwa ya COVID-19. Ukiangalia kabisa sehemu ya Kenya, ukitembea hasa ile sehemu mimi nimetoka, mimi sijaona kama kuna kitu ya maana inafanyika kwenye mahospitali au chanjo iweze kuendelea ndani ya hospitali, kwa sababu sisi tulifahamishwa ya kwamba kaunti zote zimepata chanjo, na huko kazi inaendelea ya kuchanja watu ili kuzuia ugonjwa wa COVID-19. Madam Speaker, Wakenya wanaishi katika hali ya hofu, na hofu hii ikiendelea, basi maisha itaendelea kudorora, na hasa hakutakuwa na mambo ya maana itafanyika ndani ya Kenya, na kwa kweli uchumi utaendelea kusambaratika, kwa sababu nchi ambayo inaishi katika hofu ya COVID-19 na hawapati chanjo huko mashinani, na hakuna kitu ya maana inaendelea kule, ni kutahadharisha watu tu wakaliane mbali na waweze kuvaa barakoa, basi hali hiyo itakuwa ni hali ya hatari. Madam Speaker, tunapoelekea katika uchaguzi mkuu wa mwaka ujao ambao hauko mbali, Wakenya tayari wameambiwa hofu ya COVID-19 na kukaa mbali. Mimi sioni kama hata hii uchaguzi itakuja kufanyika vizuri, sababu saa hii watu wakaliane mbali, wavae barakoa, hakuna matibabu, hakuna chanjo. Basi hali hiyo ikiendelea hivyo, watu wataendelea kukaa mbali na kutoroka wenzao. Siku hiyo ambayo utawaambia waende kwa kupiga kura, watakuambia mumetutahadharisha mwaka hii yote na sisi tuko na hofu. Sasa tukienda huko, tukienda kupiga kura, hali yetu itakuwa namna gani? Sioni kama hiyo uchaguzi pia itafanyika mzuri. Ingekuwa vyema kabisa serikali ijizatiti ile hela ambayo iko nayo ielekeze kwa upande wa chanjo, sababu kama chanjo haitaendelea na hii mambo ya kutafuta mambo ya matibabu ya COVID-19, basi hofu hiyo ikiendelea, hiyo hofu itafanya hata hiyo uchaguzi haitakuwa ya maana. Kusema kweli, Madam Speaker, kuvaa barakoa watu wamevaa. Ile ushago ya sehemu mimi nimetoka, nilipoenda mimi sijaona hata watu wakivaa barakoa. Watu wanaendelea na maisha yao ya kawaida. Mimi kama seneta wao ndio niliteremka kwa gari nikiwa na barakoa, na wameniangalia sana. Wakaniuliza, seneta, wewe leo umefunga pua kabisa, kuna nini imetokea pande hiyo ya Kenya wewe umetoka? Nikawaambia, nyinyi bado mnaishi hivi, hakuna barakoa na hakuna kukaliana mbali. Wakasema hofu hiyo haiko huko pande hiyo yao. Katika hali hiyo, ukiangalia hata afadhali wao ambao hawana barakoa na wamekaa katika ushago.
Honorable Senator, what's your point of order?
Mheshimiwa Speaker, ningependa ningependa kurekebisha ama kumkosoa seneta wangu wa Tana River, ndugu seneta wa Tana River, kwamba inaitwa barakoa sio barakwea.
Asante.
Senator, conclude.
Asante dada Pareno. Dakika yangu tafadhali.
Kindly give him 1 minute, please. There was a bit.
Dada Pareno, kweli si unajua lugha ya Waorma na ya Masai pia saa ingine inataja vitu tofauti na vile hali ilivyo katika maandiko. Ni barakoa, sawa, nimekubali. Sasa katika hali hiyo, Madam Speaker, nilikuwa ninasema barakoa ambao sahihi sisi tumevaa pande hii pande ile haivaliwi. Na ukiangalia watu wengine wanavaa hii barakoa kwa sababu ya taharuki ya polisi, kwa sababu biashara imefunguliwa huko, ni kutoroka polisi tu. Na wakikuta polisi wanakuja barabarani, mtu anakimbia na anaokota ile barakoa yoyote iko barabarani, asijue kama imetumika vibaya. Na katika hali hiyo basi sasa mimi ningependa kutoa wito kwa serikali iweze kutumia ile hela ambayo iko nayo kupata chanjo, hata tusikae kungojea.
Senator, now your time is up. Finally, Senator Adandulo Fatuma. Senator for Isiolo.
Madam Speaker, let me take this opportunity also to contribute to this statement by Senator Khaniri. Congratulations. This is actually a global issue that is not actually affecting Kenyans only. Madam Speaker, we must tell each other the truth. In as much as the responsibility of providing health care is with the government, and more so national government, the government has spent a lot of money in providing healthcare services in this country. If we are really serious as leaders, because I know most of the counties have done reallocation, they have been given budget from national government. If that money is utilized properly, Kenyans would be very far. Recently, I went to US, and I was shocked when I saw the situation America is in. I thought it was only us African countries, but unfortunately you will see also they are facing similar situation in as much as they have actually gotten vaccines. And even the vaccines given to Americans, it's almost about 50%. And we cannot, as a country, Madam Speaker, compare America to Kenya. It's uncomparable. But what we are saying is that the little resources we are allocated by the national government and the on-source revenue generated from the county government is not utilized properly to take care of our population. Madam Speaker, the challenge we have in this country is corruption, from the sweeper to the person on top. If we can only deal with corruption in this country, Madam Speaker, because there's a lot of money that is even going to the county government. If health prioritizes the issue of vaccine, we'll be able to take care of our population. And I think we must sit together as a country and leaders, look at the challenges we are facing, because economically, globally, the whole country is facing challenges. But the challenge we have in our country is corruption. This House has summoned so many governors. I remember even the ad hoc committee on COVID. There was even a special audit by Auditor General. The way counties have actually squandered COVID funds, it's unbelievable. But nobody has taken action on those individual governors who are doing that. I remember my own governor being summoned before the committee and looking at the audit queries that came from Isiolo, it's unbelievable. Where they reallocate funds and they claim they have an ICU when they have none. They reallocate budget for emergency fund for relief, buying a bale of unga at 3,000 Kenya shillings. And auditors are just closing their eyes on such a matter. Madam Speaker, something needs to be done. We cannot just blame the government alone. We have to hold the county governments accountable, especially the CEOs of those counties. There is so much corruption that is happening in this country. The institutions that are supposed to make sure that accountability is their honors, they have relegated their responsibility. More so EACC. And I'll mention them here. Because they're in these regions, they are doing nothing. Most of them, they're in the pocket of the governors. They are on the payroll of the governors, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, something needs to be done where we can be able to control the way things are happening in our country. But unless we deal with corruption, we will not actually change the situation in this country. And something needs to be done as quickly as possible. I thank you.
Honorable Senators, I've seen the interest that has that has a lot of interest on this statement, and it was worth it. I would like to refer it to the Committee of Health for further deliberation, and also with a view of looking into the COVID committee that we had, so that we see how we move forward. Because it's already mentioned here that committee had actually helped the country and put the country on its toes. Apart from just giving us figure every morning of people who have been infected, people who have died, that committee went a long way to give us more information on the COVID situation in the country. So I'd like the committee to continue with that. Next order, I think we are deferring most of the statements. We defer the next statement, which is statement 2 by Senator for Vihiga. The next one, number 3 by Senator Milgo. I don't see Senator Milgo around. Another one, the next one by Senator Sylvia Kasanga. I don't see Sylvia Kasanga around. And the last statement by Senator Gertrude. Senator Gertrude is not here. I don't see her. So we move to the next order. Honorable Senators, we want to defer. Senator Pereno, are you ready to make your statement? Because she's the one coming out here. So I think we defer all of them. The standing, pursuant to standing order, all the statements under 48A. So we defer number 1, we defer number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Senator Kwamboka, you are ready to make your statement? Yes, so we will go up to deferring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to number 6. Yes, Senator, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee, Roads and Transportation, on the state of road maintenance in Kenya. In the statement, the committee should, number 1, explain the reasons why some roads, like Professor Wangare Maathai Road and some sections of Thika Superhighway, have been partly recarpeted. Number 2, explain the standards which the recarpeting is supposed to meet. Number 3, enumerate the procedure used to evaluate the work done, when and how payment is made to the contractor. And number 4, elucidate on the efficiency of contractors to ensure that motorists do not incur losses as a result of loose chippings or incomplete works on roads during the maintenance. Can I proceed, Madam Speaker? I've got another one. Yes. Thank you. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee Education on the death of a grade 2 pupil in Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital in Nairobi County. In the statement, the committee should, number 1, state the exact time the pupil was taken to the hospital, the condition she was in, and identify the persons who took the child to the hospital, including the relationship and the connection between them and the pupil. Number 2, indicate the identity of the hospital staff who received the pupil, their designation and proof of the condition the pupil when received at the hospital. Number 3, explain the whereabouts of the teachers or staff of the school, that is New View Education School, where the pupil studied, and indicate whether the parents or next of kin to the pupil were notified. And number 4, elucidate on the actions being taken by the government to to ensure that this matter is investigated fully and justice is served and such an occurrence does not happen again. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I do not see any interest. This is just no requests. So then I proceed to refer the two statements to the relevant committees. Next order.
Order number 8, the County Oversight and Accountability Bill.
I see, okay. Is it Senator Hargura and Senator, yeah, let's start with Senator Hargura.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have 4 statements just following Senator Kwamboka's statements. I would like to make them also.
No, I think I was taking him on a point of order, but you can proceed. You can proceed. You have how many statements? So we'll allow you to read the 4 statements and hope we'll be able to move to the next orders quickly.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to rise pursuant to standing order number 48-1 to 6 statements. The first statement is on community land registration under the Community Land Act 2016. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48-1 to 6 statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the registration of community lands under the Community Land Act 2016. In the statement, the committee should 1. Explain the steps taken by the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning in operationalizing the Act. 2. The state which counties have complied in providing the community land inventories. And lastly, provide status of community land registration process and a roadmap to final registration with respect to Marsabit County. Madam Speaker, the second statement is on establishment of disease-free zones in the arid region. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries regarding establishment of disease-free zones in the arid regions. In the statement, the committee should 1. Explain the national government policy on establishment of disease-free zones in arid regions where livestock keeping is the main economic activity. 2. Provide progress on establishment of disease-free zones to date. And thirdly, explain the steps the government has taken to establish a disease-free zone with respect to Marsabit County. Madam Speaker, the third statement is on the establishment of off-grid energy facilities in Marsabit County. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Energy regarding the establishment of off-grid energy facilities in Marsabit County, considering that the county is not connected to the national grid. In the statement, the committee should explain the national government policy on ensuring that Kenyans who are not on the national grid get connected to power. 2. State with respect to Marsabit County the centers which have been identified for off-grid power provision. Provide progress on the status of off-grid facilities in the identified centers, and state why Centers like Loyangalani, South Hor, Gatap, Kargi, and Kor in Laisami's constituency are not yet connected to any form of power. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I'd like to request for a statement on the improvement of Laisamis Malgis Road section of Road D371 to bitumen standard. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads and Transportation regarding the improvement of Laisamis Malgis Road to bitumen standards under the Low Volume Sealed Roads Program. In the statement, the committee should explain the status of the above project, stating when it commenced, the scope of the works, and expected completion date. 2, state why it has taken so long to complete the works. And lastly, state what measures the government have put in place to ensure that the project is completed without any further delay. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I still see no request to comment on these statements, so all of them stand committed to the relevant committees. Next statement is by Senator Vihiga.
Madam Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. I rise pursuant to the provisions of our Standing Order number 48, paragraph 1, to request for a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations concerning the delayed rollout on the new generation number plates. In the statement, the committee should, number 1, confirm whether the government has awarded and duly signed all the contracts for the production of new generation number plates. This is a motor vehicle number plates. Number 2, state when procurement, delivery, and installation of production machines, equipment, and raw material was done, and whether the relevant and adequate personnel have been trained for the production of the said number plates. Number 3, provide a comparative assessment between the new machines and the new number plates vis-a-vis the old machines and the old number plates in terms of A, production capacity, B, security features, 3, aesthetic value. Number 4, explain the status of procurement and installation of the lesser marking or validation machines and outline the specific timelines within which Kenyans should expect a nationwide rollout of the new generation number plates as well as the expected cost. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The same applies to this statement and stands referred to the relevant Committee of National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations. The chairman do not seem to be around, so statements pursuant to Standing Orders 51B. Senator Farhia, you can do the one for finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Statement in relation of activity of Standing Committee on Finance and Budget pursuant to Standing Order 51-1B for the period 1st April to 30th June 2021. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 51-1B to make a statement on the activity of Standing Committee on Finance and Budget for the period commencing 1st April to 30th June 2021. Number of meetings. The committee held 22 meetings. The bill considered by the committee. The Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2021. The County Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bill number 30 of 2021, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 31 of 2020. The committee is scheduled to hold meetings with the COG, Auditor General, and Governor of Central Bank to further deliberate on the challenges encountered by these regular users of systems and possible mitigation measures. Regarding a statement concerning cushioning of Kenyans from the negative social-economic impact of COVID-19 caused by partial lockdown requested by Senator Millicent Omanga, the committee has sought information from the National Treasury. This process is yet to be, the response is yet to be submitted. Regarding the statement concerning the merger of government agencies to form the Kenya Transport and Logistics Network, KTLN, requested by Senator Aaron Cheriot, the committee has sought information from the National Treasury. This response is yet to be submitted. Monitoring the county budgets as another activity of the committee. Following the request for intervention by County Assembly of Bungoma, the committee held meetings with Controller of Budget, Bungoma County Executive, Bungoma County Assembly to consider allegations on deliberate denial by Governor and the CECM finance to allow County Assembly access to revenue allocated for the financial year 2020-2021. The matter is under deliberation and the committee will issue an advisory on 9th of July 2021. The committee has been following up with the National Treasury and planning on matter of delayed disbursement of equitable share to counties. When disbursement of April was delayed by a month, the committee invited the CS National Treasury for a meeting, and after deliberation, the CS committed to prioritize the release of the April disbursement. The same week in April, the disbursement was made, and it's confirmed by 5th July 2021, the county equitable share for financial year 2020-2021 has been disbursed in full. The activity of the committee in the next quarter, an investigation to the efficiency of IFMIS to the county government operations is also being considered. And therefore, for now, that is what we are considering, but in future, Madam Speaker, more activities and statements as they are generated, the committee will continue working. Madam Speaker, this is one of the most active committees in the House because of its very nature. And Madam Speaker, one of the issues that is emerging that I think I have a statement on is that in terms of financial malpractices, Madam Speaker, the accounting profession is under threat because, for one, Madam Speaker, when accountants, sometimes they are threatened to be part of, commitment of fraud at the instruction of their managers, and when that becomes an offense, the accountants pay for it. One of the examples that now we have is the whistleblower for Masai University that mentioned, as was mentioned before, that person has now been suspended by the committee of the university. Madam Speaker, where is the recourse of this country in terms of fighting corruption? When somebody, whistleblowers on a grand corruption, and because of that, government agencies act, and because of that, a grand corruption was avoided and public money was saved. Madam Speaker, that also is the person is victimized. So, Madam Speaker, how serious are we, especially the agencies that are concerned with fighting corruption? How have they protected accountants who are willing to put their lives at risk by exposing a grand corruption and yet they pay the price of losing their job. Madam Speaker, I have a statement on that, but I just thought I should give the House a heads up on that issue, because the gentleman was suspended, and I think that will be a big blow in terms of our fight in corruption, especially in this country. The leadership of this country, the top brass of this country, led by His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, has made several statements about the seriousness of his government in fighting corruption. Madam Speaker, and there are people who continue, perpetuating these fraudulent malpractices. And I think it is high time they pay and they are brought to book, Madam Speaker. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
I note that the Speaker may allow comments for 20 minutes on such a statement. But however, I do not see any interest, and I therefore leave it at that. For the rest of the statements, that is statements by the Chairperson Standing Committee on Health and the one for Information and Technology, they stand deferred to another date. Honorable Senators, the next items in the order paper from orders 8 to 16 are first readings, and I therefore ask the clerk to call out orders 8 to 16.
Order number 8, the County Oversight and Accountability Bill, Senate Bills number 17 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to give effect to Articles 96(1) and 3 of the Constitution to enhance public financial accountability by the county governments and for connected purposes. Order number 9, the National Cohesion and Peace Building Bill, Senate Bills number 19 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to provide for the establishment of the National Cohesion and Peace Building Commission, outlaw discrimination on ethnic grounds, provide for the establishment of an institutional framework for national cohesion and peace building and for connected purposes. Order number 10, the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bills number 20 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to provide for the county boundaries, to provide for a mechanism for the resolution of county boundary disputes, to give effect to Article 188 of the Constitution by providing for the procedure for alteration of county boundaries, to provide for the establishment of an independent county boundaries commission, and for connected purposes. Order number 11, the Preservation of Human Dignity and the Protection of Economic and Social Rights Bill, Senate Bills number 21 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to establish a framework for the preservation of human dignity, for the promotion, monitoring, and enforcement of economic and social rights, to establish mechanisms to monitor and promote adherence by county governments to Article 43 of the Constitution, and for connected purposes. Order number 12, the Heritage and Museums Bill, Senate Bills number 22 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to provide for the conservation, preservation, protection, research and management of cultural and natural heritage at national and county levels of government and for connected purposes. Order number 13, the Coconut Industry Development Bill, Senate Bills number 24 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to provide for the production, processing, marketing, and the distribution of Kenya coconut and its products, establish the Coconut Industry Development Board, provide a framework for coconut farming development, ensure value addition to coconut and its related products, and for connected purposes. Order number 14, the Kenya Citizenship and Immigration Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 33 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Kenya Citizenship and Immigration Act and for connected purposes. Order number 15, the Alternative Dispute Resolution Bill, Senate Bills number 34 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the settlement of civil disputes by conciliation, mediation, and traditional dispute resolution mechanism to set out the guiding principles applicable and for connected purposes. Order number 16, the County Government's Grants Bill, Senate Bills number 35 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the allocation of conditional grants to county governments for the 2021 and 2022 financial year, the responsibilities of county governments pursuant to such allocation, and for connected purposes. Order number 17, the Community Health Services Bill, Senate Bills number 34 of 2020, second reading.
Senator Agnezani.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to move that the Community Health Services Bill 2020 be read a second time. And Madam Speaker, let me start by saying that I'm very grateful to the Committee of Health. They have worked on this bill over a long time, and they have been able to put together a lot of consideration. Indeed, Madam Speaker, from the way this bill has progressed, we've reached a point where the public participation input that had already been put prior to has also been included because, Madam Speaker, you will remember, this is one of the bills that because of the court order, we are redoing in this particular house. So I really thank the members of the Committee of Health. I've spoken to several members of that committee. We have discussed to and fro some of the decisions and the amendments that they've made, and we are in agreement that now we have a version that is appropriate from this House, and we have a version that will be able to progress. We've been able to address the specific issues, and now that we also have a bill that is considering all these issues together, then it becomes very, very critical. Madam Speaker, this bill hopes to address a lacuna in the law as it stands because we have various levels of health institutions. Madam Speaker, level 1 we have community facilities. At level 2 we have health dispensaries. Level 3 we have health centers. Level 4 we have county hospitals. Level 5 we have county referral hospitals, and level 6 we have national referral hospitals. Now, components of community facilities level 1 are there in the various strategies that have been put up. But when we come to the Health Act, this aspect has not been incorporated. And I think before, the issue was, it seemed like the bill was introducing a totally new thing, and in the new form of this bill, it's putting into consideration level 1 and incorporating it so that it's handled at the national level from the ministry, at the county level from the counties themselves, and creating mechanisms to ensure that various players can come into the field to ensure that the specific aspects that are so important are taken into consideration. So this level 1 is a tier classified in healthcare delivery, which is very, very key, and it actually comes at the level of the community, Madam Speaker. We're talking about community health volunteers involved in health outcomes. And there are certain countries, Germany comes to mind immediately, where because of such strong structures, the community health volunteers move from one household to the other they are well known. Indeed, they are elected by the people themselves to be able to give this service. So they're able to do so much and to treat so much. In fact, Madam Speaker, I'd been hoping that this bill would have come at the point when we were dealing with the whole issue of COVID when it started, because this is where the ground really been entrenched to be able to do those things that we talked about, that Senator Faria eloquently referred to earlier on, Senator Sakaja, and indeed the statement from Senator of Vihiga, where the community, when it's involved and then when they're pushed forward to make some of these outcomes come up, then it makes it very, very easy for us to be having a framework of delivery of community health services, which I think is very, very critical. So it is a workforce that is very, very important and entrenched in Article 43 of the Constitution. The highest attainable level of health is actually a right. It guarantees for every person the right to the highest attainable standard of health, and this is well stipulated. The first schedule of the Health Act also recognizes community health services as level 1 in the tier of healthcare delivery, and this is in keeping with the Ministry of Health's second National Health Sector Strategic Plan, which shifted the emphasis from the burden of disease to promotion of individual health and emphasized strong community involvement at the healthcare. It's only now the system for us to be able to do that, and the structure for us to do that is not entrenched in the Health Act as it stands now. And this is the lacuna we're trying to address. And indeed, Madam Speaker, in 2006, the Ministry of Health initiated a community health strategy to fast-track establishment of community health units, these are CHUs, to bring services closer to the community by empowering communities with health information and essential services. And this is what, within this bill, at the various levels, at the CEC level, at the health officer level, at the community level, at the community health volunteer level, a system has been put into place. Madam Speaker, the structure now that we have in many counties is that we have these volunteers, they work and do a lot of these essential services, but a proper scheme has not really been put into place. And in the initial bill, we really were trying to just stipulate, even to the point of being able to define how these need to work. But we've also realized that there's a lot of variation from one county to the other. So the provision to guide, the provision to move forward has now been taken as a responsibility at the national level, at the county. The idea of ensuring that the workforce is taken into consideration and that they're able to do what they're expected to do is very, very key. And I want to just go to the case of Indonesia, for example, that restructured its health system in 1982 to focus on district health development. And as a result of that, as a result of involving the local community, the activities at that time included family planning, health education, immunization, treatment, etc. And according to the WHO report, it led to a significant health status achievement. Infant mortality dropped by 30% within 7 years, and immunization coverage improved significantly. Closer home, we have the county of Isiolo that has done very well. They have been in partnership with the Living Goods, which is a non-profit organization, for the delivery of cost-effective integrated community health services within the county. And according to a particular report, that is the Living Goods Community Health Impact Report 2020, the proportion of women who attended the recommended number of antenatal clinics increased. And we've had more and more of cases in Isiolo where women are able to get to the delivery centers faster than they were able to before, that the outcomes for these children. Madam Speaker, the work of community health volunteers within the community is so important. We're actually talking about the health of the nation right from the beginning. We're talking about child mortality, we're talking about immunization, we're talking about maternal health, we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about basically everything under health matters. and that these are stipulated and advanced and discussed at the early levels so that these are taken into consideration right through the various moments and the various times that are very, very critical. So through the various declarations that have been given at the international level, the role of community health care workers has always been attributed, it has always been affirmed, it has always been seen to be something very, very critical. And this is what we're trying to achieve, Madam Speaker, putting it into perspective and being able to just find a way to be able to put into this place. Madam Speaker, I just want to give a few statistics just to contextualize where we are and where we need to move to. And this is according to the Kenya Health Workforce Report 2015. Right now, we have 15 doctors per 100 population ratio. Yet the WHO guidelines advocate for 36 to 10,000. Madam Speaker, I'm just giving this to highlight that already our healthcare system is heavily tilted towards service provision where the numbers are not really adequate. Just to say that at the end of the day, community health cares, community health volunteers and community health care workers are able to cover for this gap. That same report also showed 8.3 nurses existing per 10,000 population ratio. But the WHO guidelines advocate for 25 nurses to that same 10,000. So we are at a third, more or less. 27 clinical officers per 1,000 population ratio, and medical laboratory officers are standing at 10,000 population ratio. So this just highlights that it's very, very important to come up with a schemata or with a scheme that allows us to bridge between the community and the formal health services in the various sectors of health development, which are very, very critical, Madam Speaker. And through the various examples, Indonesia, Isiolo, all these just show that the delivery system is very, very key. And this particular filling in of this lacuna is carried by the strategy of community health 2014 to 2019, which speaks heavily of community health services and how these are very important in closing the gap for better health outcomes within communities in Kenya. And therefore, given the role, the structures becomes very, very important. This bill also hopes to provide a uniform minimum standard upon which county health services may be achieved. Madam Speaker, I just gave the example of Isiolo, but we have so many other counties, and we find that variation mainly because there is no specific guidance in terms of how the CCM should operate within the counties, how the county assembly should be envisaged to come in, and how the various structures should be put into place. Madam Speaker, therefore, the clauses in this particular bill seek to address this. We start by giving the role of the national government, what those expectations are, the role of the county governments, the importance of health officers, the delivery of health services and how this should be enshrined, the Community Health Committee, which is a committee constituting key members within the community who can discuss the various outcomes for that particular county, the appointment of community health volunteers, Madam Speaker, the need for a register, so that we have members, even though they are community, even as they are community healthcare volunteers, they are well entrenched, their role is understood, the register actually triggers down up to the ward level, the functions of the health volunteers is put into place, the registry, I've mentioned that, the inspection of the register, which is very, very critical, so that you have these influencers who are going around as key people who are known to do that. And indeed, Madam Speaker, even at the public barazas, these people standing up and being recognized. These are the people who have the mandate to talk about these specific issues. And then information on community health services and how this should be disseminated. Madam Speaker, this bill moves to encourage county legislation in this area. It also gives procedure standards, ethic guidelines, regulations, and also the need to pass reports to the county assembly members so these are properly taken into place. Madam Speaker, allow me just to highlight some specific clauses I think that are very, very key, starting with clause 3, where the objects of this bill are stipulated, which is to provide a framework for effective delivery for integrated, comprehensive and quality community healthcare services, enhance community access to basic health services, entrench the role of community health care volunteers, provide framework for conferment of community health workers force. So because these areas are missing in terms of legislation, that objective or that object for this particular legislative proposal puts into place specific areas that will allow some sort of mechanism to be put into place. Then clause 5 tackles the importance of the national government, because we know health has been devolved to the counties. There are certain key prospective aspects also the national government plays, for example, in technical resources and structures, in terms of the qualifications of persons eligible to serve within the community healthcare workforce, and these have to be designated at the national level. Talking about technical assistance, for example, to county governments, that has to come from the national government. The county governments have also been given very key specific roles, for example, mobilizing resources that are necessary for delivery of healthcare services in the respective counties, and we had the governors speak to this and saying that we have resources at the county level that are already stretched out, but we have community health volunteers who have already been working at this over both the last phase of devolution and this phase of devolution. I think it's really just a question of putting things together so that we come up with a template that can be applied within the various counties, and this is what this legislation endeavors to do. Talking about adequate funds that are very, very key, putting in place mechanism to facilitate access to timely community healthcare services, facilitating access to information regarding appropriate behavior, including basic information on sanitation, hygiene. All these are very, very critical, and it is the community health services providers who move from one place to another to put this into place. Madam Speaker, at clause 6, we have very specific provision at county level, but that touch on the CEC member. And this is, for example, to advise the governor on all matters relating to delivery of healthcare services. So these are properly entrenched, building capacity within the counties, monitoring and evaluating the effectiveness of community healthcare programs so that they can know, are they improving, are they reaching out to the people that they're meant to reach out to. So that clause, and there are very many specific sub-clauses, gives the meat, the teeth that is needed by the CECM to be able to cascade this higher up into the county and discuss this at the level of the county governor. We also have at sub-clause 3 the introduction of ensuring that the county executive member, in order for them to effectively perform the functions, can delegate the performance of such functions to the Director of Health. So it introduces a Director of Health who can be very specifically targeting the issues of health, so that in case the CEC also has other issues that they're tackling, that the County Director of Health specifically delves into this. Clause 7 deals with the health officer and the roles of that officer. It gives these in details, including overseeing the selection of community health volunteers, providing technical support and training. At clause 8, we have the Director of Health's responsibilities, again further outlined in detail. The role of coordination becoming very, very critical and important, because we define in this bill the community that is going to be assigned by the CEC in terms of how the CEC can capture the various communities and be able to give these services. So we don't have a general definition of a community. We have a community that will be defined in terms of logistics, that this particular numbers of community health volunteers, for example, work in this particular area. So the Director of Health is very critical to make sure this is together. Madam Speaker, when the community health volunteer goes to do the work, they go out with a kit, they go out with a notebook, they keep recording, they keep needing to give back this feedback back to the mainstream to give all these explanations. And therefore it's very critical for that coordination to be very, very key. Clause 9 deals with the Community Health Committee and its membership. representing a woman, representing women groups, a person representing PWDs, a representative of the youth, a ward public health officer, so that all the matters of the county that are touching on health can be discussed at a particular point. And then, Madam Speaker, very critical at clause 11, the community health officer and the functions of that health officer have also been put out very clearly at the ward level. The reference is also made to specific that. At clause 9, are very important, and sub-clause 5 and 6, each county government may enact county-specific legislation setting out the procedure for the nomination and election of the members of the committee, the terms of appointments for these members, and criteria for these nominations. So the role now for managing health matters at the county level is also given as a responsibility to county assemblies that can come with this sort of legislation that they'll be able to perpetrate even further. And then clause 10 deals with the community health volunteer and the process for selection for that particular volunteer. Clause 11 is very, very extensive. It now gives the CHV's responsibilities that are very, very broad, and I've mentioned them as I was continuing to move this bill. And at clause 12, we have each county director of health shall maintain the register, and I've spoken to that, Madam Speaker, that this will go down to the ward level. So the CEC at the end of it, especially under miscellaneous provisions, will report to the county assembly what is happening. So we have a link that is created throughout the whole system. And clause 17 introduces the cabinet secretary as being very key in terms of consultation with the council of governors, making regulations, prescribing standards and guidelines, generally for the better carrying in effect of this particular act, Madam Speaker. And then we have at 18, the government will also, over time, enact county-specific legislation generally for the better carrying out of this. Madam Speaker, given the outcome in terms of community health work at the community level from counties like Isiolo, from Indonesia, and from so many other countries that were able even to surmount some of the bigger problems that came later on, it means that this is something that needed to be done even earlier. And I think if we had a better system for community health services within the counties, even the whole issue of COVID might have been handled. We would have had the basic structure to be able to handle it probably better and be able to reach the various communities. Madam Speaker, this bill is very, very critical at this time for Kenya. So I really hope that we'll be able to support it, that you'll be able to push this agenda and have it legislated on, and that this is very, very key. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of a young, dynamic lady called Caroline Cherop. In terms of the role she has played in coming up and really having a discussion and all the time being able to be involved in the process of looking at various issues that come and how to really just push these issues out. As she moves on to other responsibilities, I just want to acknowledge publicly that the role she has played within the various issues and duties that she has had, she's performed in an exemplary way. Madam Speaker, I just want to leave it at that and really just hope that we can push this to the next agenda. And now that the community, the health committee already made recommendations, I'd mentioned that this have already been infused in this bill. So maybe even as it goes to the committee, you can't stop new issues coming up during public participation, but just to mention that we've taken up what had come earlier. Madam Speaker, with this, I beg to move and request Professor Ongeri to second. Thank you.
Senator Professor Sam Ongeri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, I have the pleasure in seconding this bill, the Community Health Services Bill. One of the most important elements in this bill is the element of decentralization of health facilities to the village level. And therefore, no wonder in the preamble of this bill, there is the element of villages, as the county executive may from time to time determine, depending upon the nature and the requirement of the health facilities that are required at that village level. Hitherto, there's been a lot of difficulties in accessing the health facilities at the community level. Even if the level 1 hospitals and health centers are within a given locality, the distances between that level 1 facility and the villages that are dotted around that level 1 facility may be the limiting factor in the delivery of health services. And I know as a medical professional that it's not possible to be able to put trained doctors in every village. And therefore you need what you call an army of health workers who are properly trained, who are properly skilled, and who are properly motivated to be able to perform certain tasks that are important to deliver the health package to that community. Therefore, this is indeed the most cardinal point. Even from independence, one of the things that we fought for and we strive to achieve is to achieve the level of education, to achieve the level of social development, and to achieve the level of health within our community. And therefore, this community health bill is not misplaced. It's fulfilling those tenets and fulfilling those aspirations that were captured in our constitution. Accessibility or access to services, goods and services, health being one of those goods and services that must be accessed at the community level. So I'm quite happy that this element of community health services, not only does it take into account the county government, but it's also in collaboration with the national government because of overarching policies that touch from one county to another and are coordinated at the national level. And therefore, later on in the structure of this community health bill, there will be cooperation between the national government and the county government, and at the county government, the county executive and the community level will be able to coordinate how these health services must be delivered to be able to touch the very primary healthcare systems that are required at the village level. What are these services that are required at the village level? We have the maternal and child health services that are required at the village level. Under the maternal and child health services, you have the nutritional services that are required in that village level. We used to have the traditional birth attendants. One of the biggest mortality in birth, in deliveries, is the maternal mortality rates, which are fairly high because our mothers have not been given access to information, health education, and how to be able to rear and bring up a child who is inborn. And therefore, these community services will monitor closely the element of services being given at that level. And that's why there must be participants in this selection, whoever is the flag bearer, the community flag bearer at that level. A lot of malnutrition or nutritional disturbances that we have at the community level are preventable conditions. For instance, simple basic education on what kind of foods we should take, balancing both the proteins, the carbohydrates, and the fats is such an elementary knowledge that will save many of our mothers from giving birth to children who are malnourished and prone to infections, and particularly infectious diseases that may harm and create high child mortality at birth. So in the first instance, we want to ensure the mother is safe in carrying the pregnancy to full term. Secondly, we want to ensure that the baby that the mother is carrying is also safe. At the end of this exercise, we want to ensure both the mother and the child survive this physiological phenomena of bringing forth a new arrival to the community. And therefore, they need assistance. They need accessibility to a health facility that will help them to achieve that noble objective. And unless you have a robust and very well coordinated, very well furnished and resourced centers and village activities, I'm afraid our mortality rates, our morbidity rates will continue rising and will not be able to achieve our health index that we have started so well at the beginning, that we want to give health as a right to all our individuals at the community level. And this is the basics in our constitution. And therefore, this is an enabling act of parliament, christened as community health services, which overarches to reach the most remotest village, the most basic village in our society to access health. So that's one of the elements that we are able to achieve. What is the second element? That the disease surveillance will be a thing that will be very much cherished. We should be able to pick out certain basic diseases that are preventable, that cause a high morbidity and mortality in our society. And therefore, we have a surveillance system that is in place. A health worker can be able to pick up basic health defects that can be attended to promptly without giving much thought to it, and that will save both the baby and the mother and the community or the father, whatever elements they may be suffering from. Thirdly, Madam Speaker, at that level, we should be able to provide expertise and skills at various levels. Whether it's a social worker volunteer, they will have basic skills to handle certain matters within the professional competence that has been bequeathed to them at that moment. And beyond that, the structure is such that there shall be a certified medical practitioner operating within a given area and within a given region. And therefore, that certified medical practitioner will have the overall responsibility of checking that all the elements that add up to health are catered for and they are properly looked at and taken care of without any much damage to our society. So that's the comforting thought. And therefore, it becomes a primary agent and takes over the primary responsibility of ensuring that the health index is transferred to the very remotest level of that level. Apart from the medical practitioner or general doctor who has overall general interest in medicine and public health, there will also be an additional public health officers who will assist him or her in that task of identifying some of these beacons of health dividends that can be tapped from a community so that the community can be able to take care of those health dividends and be able to take care of themselves and be able to promote health at that level. Promote health, prevent diseases. And of course, those that are gone to higher level, that's where we have a referral system. They should also be able to pick them and quickly channel them to the referral centers where they'll be catered for higher medical attention. So under the objectives, and then of course, not left out, not only the professionals are going to participate in this committee, but the community have also been given an opportunity to elect a health worker elected by the community and involved in health-related work in the community the person lives in. So the person who lives in that community is able to give us first-hand information on what should happen and pass it on to other health workers who are relatively more skilled than him or her to be able to attend those emergencies that may arise from time to time. The objects, obviously, and I think I've already been able to spell out some of them, is effective delivery of integrated, comprehensive, and quality community health services. That to me is the critical factor, because that should be the object, not again as another officer marooning around and going around displaying his positions. No, the effect should be effective delivery of integrated, comprehensive, and quality community health services. The second objective of this community health is to provide access, quick access to the basic health facilities. The third one, it provides the framework that we are able to coordinate these functions at that village level. And of course, the fourth one is to entrench the role of the community in providing the services for that group or that concert of group that may be around that region. And the fifth one is to be able to develop the mechanisms and criteria for recognition, certification, and accreditation of community health workers. Don't forget that these are people who are springing up from the community where they are. They are best suited to know what ailments and elements disturb the community where they stay. They are able to transmit that critical information. They are the people that people can, because they have the trust of that community, they have the trust of that village, they can be able to be entrusted with the information. And therefore, that information can be available to the wider group of health workers who can assess and examine the information available and be able to roll out the health community measures that will be able to alleviate those problems that are within the community. And then, of course, this object, it's not a function that is without money. There must be, one of the objects must be the framework for financing the community health services. That's why the national government is critical, because some of the policies, some of the public health policies will require financing exercise, and therefore they come as conditional grants, some of these health facilities for public health promotion in some of the county governments. And therefore, we need to involve the national government that any resources that they need to have, particularly in the public health policy that needs to be rolled out, it is at the community level where these functions are carried out, and therefore the bulk of those resources must be devolved, not only the county government, but they must also be devolved to the villages level where the effect will be felt, rather than keeping them at the center and donating them out like the sweets that you give to a child just to please them for a moment, but do not go far enough to. So these objectives, being health, you must have a vehicle. What would then be the guiding principles in being able to carry out these projects? I picked up 4 major ones. One, of course, I said, there must be a principle of inclusivity and equity in the provision of these services. That's a major principle. You don't just go and wander around on your own. You start bringing up your own policies. The second one is coordinated public participation in the formulation and implementation and monitoring of these policies. And number 3 is the empowerment and capacity building as a means of facilitating access to health services. And number 4 is transparency and accountability elements. I've talked about the role of the national government. I've also talked about the role of the national government on technical resource provision and structures qualification of persons, standards of service, reporting tools, monitoring and evaluation, and of course technical assistance that may be required from time to time, and curriculum and training modules for the training of community health workers that will be coordinated nationally and at the county level, and the mobilizing of the resources and the provision of adequate resources to meet these needs at the village level. And finally, to replace the mechanism, to put in place mechanism to facilitate to access to timely community health services by residents within the respective county, and facilitate access to this. Therefore, Madam Speaker, the way I see it, we must continue and endeavor to build the conduct of capacity building, financing of resources, and establishment of the structures. And to enable us to do this, there is a need to establish the Community Health Services Director, who is at the community level, to be able to coordinate these services and ensure that these services reach to every single village, because he's the man best suited to know the county very well and to know the villages and map out the villages and be able then to do the normal budgeting and financing exercise to meet the ready, developed and required needs for that community. Time permitting, I would have said more, but for now, severity is to say, for me, this is the single most piece of legislation that will go to a long way in addressing the gaps that we see. A thing like the pandemic today can be easily handled and detected and tested at the village level. Therefore, we reduce the amount of panic that is all over the place. People are panicking at the moment. Simple basic measures of social distancing, simple measures of keeping yourself safe by wearing the masks, simple measures like drinking water and washing hands and ensuring you have warm water, drinking and clearing your throat are simple basic elements that should be taken at the village level, and we can reduce the intensity and the pervasiveness of any pandemic that may come up unexpectedly in the community, and the first stop can be localized around that region, and therefore even contact tracing can be easy to be able to reach the target groups within a given time. And finally, all the immunization programs in preventing all the diseases can be done at level 1 hospitals, at level 1 health centers, villages, and can be done by these very consummate and very well skilled manpower. Therefore, the rate of going to the hospital will drop by 50%, and the cost of health expenses will drop by 50%, and therefore only the ones that need the medical care that will require specialized training or specialized care in referral hospitals like kidney transplants, dialysis or cancer treatment will be able. Even then, those cancer treatment, the observations and the monitoring and the detection can be done at the village level. Once you have a properly and well-motivated, well-trained people who can detect certain basic signs and symptoms that do not portend well for that village, there will be an aberration, an abnormal system that will be noted within that village, then can be attended to. Like the kind of water drinking, the pollution of water is one of the major elements, waterborne diseases, one of the elements that causes so much pain and agony in the families, and yet these are preventable condition that once we take care of.
Thank you.
COVID. Madam Speaker, the importance of community health workers cannot be overemphasized, because some of the counties where we come from, before devolution, these were the only people the communities knew as the health workers. Actually, they used to be called doctors in those days. Because by nature, my community, move from one place to the pastoralist nature, you can understand, move from one place to another. And it is not easy to maintain medical contact with such community, but that is part of their livelihoods, and they need to be served. Community health workers were the source of their information, Madam Speaker. In those days, even the training, the development of curriculum was left to be developed by NGOs, UN-sponsored programs, and even in terms of delivery of children, maternal health care, all those issues used to be handled by the community health workers. And Madam Speaker, because of all that, there were a lot of issues that were being addressed at that level in terms of health-wise, and these people were very important to our community, and especially where health work. And Madam Speaker, that is why sometimes when people criticize devolution, with its own faults, with the governors not taking care of health properly, with a lot of gaps, I still believe that devolution is the best thing that happened in this country, because at least some of people like the marginalized areas where I come from, for the first time after the devolved government, they have seen hospitals with a doctor. I think before devolution, Wajir County Referral Hospital has never had more than 2 doctors. And right now, there are 10, 13, you name it. At least the county government is able to bring those people on board with its own challenges. I am not saying that it is a perfect system. Madam Speaker, the health workers also are able to if they were empowered, their, curriculum developed, their selection criteria clearly identified, they are able to take roles like ensuring that pandemics like COVID don't spread. People understand the vernacular. They can speak to the people directly, even those who don't have education, and therefore make them understand the dangers of ailments like those ones. Like even things like cholera and stuff like that used to be taken care of by the community health workers. But increasingly, as we improved our health system, it looks like the public health and that was properly served by community health worker is being neglected. That means increasing now the risk of pandemics, the risk of diseases like cholera, measles. These are the diseases that spread, communicable diseases spread easily without them. And I think with this bill, Senator Zani, I hope there is also a section where there will be a requirement to harmonize the incentives for these people, so that at least all counties, people in Wajir County don't feel that they are being paid by, small incentives compared to Nairobi, so that whoever they reach, and with the clear criteria that you mentioned in your bill in terms of the selection criteria, I think that will go a long way in getting qualified people who are able to do certain basic things before health workers are needed. Madam Speaker, these are people who are, together in the villages. Even now as we speak, in Wajir County, for example, of course the number of health centers have increased with devolution, but still some of those facilities are ill-equipped. And these community health workers are necessary to be able to reach, as many people, information as many people as possible, so that things can work better. Madam Speaker, and I challenge our MCAs as well in the counties to ensure that they bring legislations that are relevant to and specifically relevant for specific counties, so that at least this bill can be devolved properly and every county government takes care of it. And Madam Speaker, I also wish to ask Senator Zani to include a clause whereby regulations are time-bound. sometimes when bills are generated and within certain time you don't have regulation, then implementations become difficult. As we are aware, regulations brings, about policy, it brings about, specificity in terms of how things should work better, because you can't cover everything in bills. But the way, because I have worked with the Delegated Legislation Committee, I am aware that ministries would rather avoid, developing regulations for bills. So if you create a timeline within a year, within 6 months of this bill being passed by both houses, that there is need for regulation to ensure that it is properly operationalized. Madam Speaker, I also want to challenge our governors also. Even the casual workers in the hospitals who are sometimes do the cleaning, do the first hands response to patients are being mistreated. My county was one of the ones that now they had put down their tools, and because of that, part of the reasons why the MCS impeached our governor. I saw the other day your own county, Madam Speaker, of Kajiado, the casual workers in hospitals also down their tools. If they down their tools, even the doctor, the nurses are not enough to deliver health services. And Madam Speaker, I urge our governor and to ensure that casual workers are taken care of. The community health workers are also taken care of once this bill is passed. And Madam Speaker, so that there is a lot of access to information in terms of the health-related issues. As it was being submitted here during Senator Khaniri's statement, Madam Speaker, the need for people to know even about vaccines. Because in some countries, even the vaccines have expired, even where in Africa, even where government procured vaccines, but now the uptake is low. Now, because of the lowness of the low uptake, the spread continues, the shutdown continues, the economic hiccup continues, and the challenges community face will also continue. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, and as I said earlier, selection process is very important to ensure that there is harmonization of who comes as a health worker, because in absence of that, depending on how close you are with the governor, or depending on whether you are one of the campaign managers of the governor, those are the ones who will find themselves in the payroll in the name of community health workers, even when they have no clue. And I think in terms of curriculum development of this, community health workers is important. And training is also important, so that there is standardization of how they engage the community and what kind of information they are able to disseminate is also critical. Because in absence of that, then every person will just give their own information, and with the kind of errors that we know, we cannot go wrong on health of our people. And therefore, these people that are selected as part of the community health workers need only not to be selected correctly, but they also need to be also empowered with the right tools. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I never saw the changes in the speakers. Mr. Speaker, even nowadays there is a lot of drugs within our communities. Like in Wajir County, there is a lot of drugs that is grown around our border, the other side in Ethiopia. And it normally finds its way to the markets of Wajir. And as a result of that, Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of abuses of, drugs especially what they call weed, bang. Sorry to use that word. I apologize for change of language. Mr. Speaker, and therefore there is nobody to educate the public in terms of our youth, in terms of the danger of this drug, abuse of this drug. As a result of those abuses of those drugs, Mr. Speaker, there is a lot of rape that was never known in Wajir County. I mean, it was there, but it was small pockets. Nowadays, because people abuse drugs, our small girls of 5 years, 3 years old girls are being raped, Mr. Speaker. And I think, Mr. Speaker, because of this bill, if the people will be sensitized in terms of the abuses of drugs, in terms of the impact of health of abusing drugs, in terms of economic impact of abusing of drugs, in terms of the social impact of, because even marriages are breaking now, Mr. Speaker, compared to before, because of these people are abusing drugs. And as a result of people abusing drugs, there's also mental health issues. And because of mental health issues, there are also, Mr. Speaker, there is also stigma around people, you know, mental issues. There are no support mechanism. People don't have any point of, you know, contact for information. So, Mr. Speaker, there is a lot of need for this community health worker. So, and I thank our sister, Dr. Zani, for bringing this bill, because it will go a long way in enhancing health matters in our various counties. And Mr. Speaker, given that health is a devolved function, then this is an idea whose time has come. And I wish to thank Senator Zani. And I also wish to support this bill. I support Mr. Speaker with those few remarks.
Senator Munyachi, thank you.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii ya kuchangia mswada huu wa huduma za afya kwa jamii. Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu umekuja katika wakati mwafaka, wakati ulimwengu unapambana na janga la corona. Nampongeza Mheshimiwa Senator Zani kwa kuleta mswada huu katika bunge kujadiliwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu unatoa fursa kwa sheria kutambua majukumu ya wafanyikazi wa afya ambao wengi wamejitolea kuhakikisha kwamba wananchi kule mashinani wanapata huduma za afya, na wengine hata bila ya malipo. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia kwa mfano wakunga wale wanazalisha kina mama wakati wanajifungua, wale ngariba ambao wanapasha tohara, wakati vijana wanaingia wanatiwa jandoni. Mheshimiwa Spika, wengine sasa wanatoa huduma kwa wenye magonjwa kama vile saratani, kisukari, Mheshimiwa Spika, na magonjwa mengi ambayo ni gharama kubwa kumpeleka mgonjwa katika zahanati ama hospitali ya kisasa kuweza kupata huduma kama hiyo. Saratani, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa mfano, ni magonjwa ambayo yameingia katika vijiji vyetu, na wengi wanaopata huduma wanapata huduma kwa wale ambao ni wafanyakazi wa afya ya jamii. Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu utasaidia pia pakubwa kuweza kupambana na mikurupuko ya maradhi tofauti. Kwa mfano, mikurupuko ya maradhi kama vile kipindupindu, maradhi mengine kama vile kichocho ama bilharzia, na mengineyo mengi ambayo hutokea vijijini, ambayo inabidi wananchi watembee huduma ndefu, watembee masafa marefu kuweza kupata huduma za afya kutoka kwa zile zahanati ambazo zinajulikana. Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu pia utasaidia kupambana kusambaza huduma za afya mpaka vijijini, kwa sababu sheria inalenga vituo vya afya vya level ya kwanza, yani first level 1 hospitals facilities. Mheshimiwa Spika, ndio zinalengwa na mswada huu. Vile vile Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu utasaidia pakubwa kupambana na magonjwa sugu kama vile saratani, magonjwa kama vile kisukari, magonjwa kama vile corona, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu hatua zinaweza kuchukuliwa mapema wakati kumetokea visa vya magonjwa kama haya, ili visiweze kuwa na mkurupuko na yasambaye katika sehemu zingine. Mheshimiwa Spika, uwepo wa sheria hii pia utasaidia kupambana na athari za mihadarati katika vijiji vyetu, hususan zile sehemu ambazo mihadarati imeingia sana kwa vijana, Mheshimiwa Spika, na kupata huduma za kiafya ama za hospitali, kuwapa dawa wagonjwa wale waathiriwa wa mihadarati inakuwa shida. Kwa mfano, Mheshimiwa Spika, kule Mombasa kuna sehemu ambazo kama vile Coast General ambazo wanatoa huduma za methadone kwa waathiriwa wa mihadarati. Mheshimiwa Spika, huduma kama zile zikifanywa katika hospitali kuu ama hospitali kubwa, inaathiri huduma nyingine ambazo zinatolewa kwa wagonjwa wa kawaida. Kwa hivyo ikiwa watapewa katika kijiji pale pale, inakuwa ni rahisi, haitaathiri huduma nyingine zinazotolewa katika hospitali kubwa kama hizo. Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu pia utasaidia pakubwa azma ya serikali ya kuweza kufikisha huduma za afya kwa wote, ambao ni lengo moja kubwa la serikali hii. Mheshimiwa Spika, naona kwamba tunalenga kuangalia huduma za afya katika kijiji ama sehemu za mashinani, na hii Mheshimiwa Spika itasaidia pakubwa kuhakikisha kwamba watu wote wanapata afya katika Jamhuri yetu ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia itasaidia pakubwa kusongeza huduma za afya mashinani, kwa sababu kama inavyosema sheria ni kuwa kutakuwa na mhudumu medical officer of health, daktari ambaye amekuwa qualified na anaweza kuhudumu katika kijiji ama katika sehemu ile ya chini kabisa ya kutoa huduma hizi. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ina maana kwamba huduma zitaweza kupatikana mashinani na itakuwa ni rahisi kuweza kuwahudumia wananchi katika maeneo yale. Mheshimiwa Spika, hiyo pia itasaidia kuleta teknolojia karibu na wananchi, kwa sababu iwapo zahanati hizi ambazo zitakuwa zinahudumia wananchi zitakuwa na viparakanishi ama tarakanishi katika maeneo yao, zitasaidia Mheshimiwa Spika kusambaza huduma za afya kirahisi. Kwa mfano, vipimo vya damu kwa njia za kisasa vitaweza kufanyika bila ya kuwa na matatizo yote. Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu pia utasaidia pakubwa kupunguza gharama za matibabu. Tunaona kwamba imekuwa donda sugu kwa wananchi, Mheshimiwa Spika, kumudu huduma za matibabu, lakini iwapo sheria hii itapita, Mheshimiwa Spika, huduma za matibabu zitakuja mashinani, madawa yataweza kupatikana mashinani, na vile vile pia huduma kama vile za x-ray na vipimo vya damu vitaweza kupatikana kwa njia rahisi, Mheshimiwa Spika, ili kuhakikisha kwamba wananchi wanatibiwa kwa gharama isiyokuwa kubwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, vile vile zile stakabadhi ama information itakayopatikana katika kijiji kile, Mheshimiwa Spika, itasaidia pakubwa pia kupanga mikakati ambayo itasaidia pakubwa kuboresha huduma za afya katika maeneo yale na afya ya wananchi katika zile sehemu ambazo zimelengwa. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu utachangia pakubwa afya katika nchi yetu na katika kaunti zetu, na vile vile Mheshimiwa Spika, itasaidia kuhakikisha kwamba kuna afya kwa wote katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kumalizia ni kuwa mswada huu unaweka msingi thabiti wa kuweza kupatikana kwa afya katika kaunti zetu. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, nawaomba maseneta wenzangu wahakikishe kwamba tumeunga mkono mswada huu ili kuhakikisha kuwa tuna sheria ya msingi ambayo itatambua kazi ambazo zimefanya kutoka jadi na wale wahudumu wa afya wa vijijini, kama nilivyotangulia kusema, wakunga wale walikuwa wakizalisha kina mama, ngariba wale wanaopasha watoto tohara, na wale wa sasa ambao wameingia kuhudumia wananchi ambao wameathirika na ugonjwa kama vile ukimwi. Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi wanaohudumiwa kwa masuala ya ukimwi kwa sasa wanahudumiwa majumbani, na wale wanaofanya kazi hizi, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni watu wa kujitolea, wanafanya kazi hizi bila ya malipo. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu utasaidia pakubwa kuwaleta katika hali ambayo inakuwa ni ya kuridhisha kikazi na vile vile pia kihuduma kwa wananchi wetu. Nampongeza Mheshimiwa Spika Senator Zani kwa kuleta mswada huu. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Kongo Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this bill, this very important bill that is before the House. Mr. Speaker, I want to confirm that when this bill was read in this House, before we moved to the High Court to nullify bills that did not have concurrence of the two speakers, I made substantive contributions to the bill. And I'm happy to note that the bill that we now have, the one dated the 4th of December 2020, has incorporated a number of concerns that we raised as senators before the floor of the House. So I really must congratulate the sponsor of this bill, my good friend Dr. Agnes Zani, for having taken on board our views. It means, Mr. Speaker, that what we say on the floor of this House is never in vain, and I really want to congratulate you. Mr. Speaker, it's also good because there is a debate that is going on out there as to whether there is any importance for elected leaders to go to school and go to school properly. But looking at the quality of the bills and the interest that Senator Agnes Zani has had in sponsoring bills before this House, then there is enough evidence, Mr. Speaker, to demonstrate that there is value in having people who have gone to school occupying some of these positions. I really must say that you have really set the pace for many of us, and I hope that members of the County Assembly should follow this debate very closely and see that when people are saying that we also need people who are able to demonstrate that they have gone to school and gone to school properly, it is very useful, because this bill, Mr. Speaker, that has been sponsored by Senator Zani will not just benefit the people of Kilifi. This is a bill that will benefit people of Kenya from all counties, including, I must say, even people from my own county of Nyamira. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that this bill is coming here as a consequence of the suit that was filed by this House. My committee was informed this morning that the two speakers have so far concurred on over 30 bills, means that this House is now getting its rightful place in the legislative role of the House of Parliament, which incorporates the National Assembly and the Senate. And Mr. Speaker, I don't think there is any member of Parliament, and most of them are our friends, who can really take issue with some of this very good progressive work that is being done by senators, more so these community health services that will impact in a very positive way on many of the people that we represent. I just want to state to the House that the battle is not yet over. As you know, honorable senators, members of the National Assembly did challenge the decision of the High Court in the Court of Appeal, and I, together with Senator Mutula Kilonzo and Senator James Orengo, and my good friend Senator Faki of Mombasa, are preparing to appear for the Senate in the Court of Appeal on the 21st of this month. So we really want to continue defending the role that is played by this House in terms of passing legislations. Going back to the merits of this bill, Mr. Speaker, I did say last time that I fully and passionately support this bill that wants to integrate issues of community health volunteers in provision of quality health services. Mr. Speaker, people who serve at level 1 and level 2 hospitals, as Senator Zani will confirm, are really the first line of defense in provision of health services. Before the lab technicians come in, before the qualified nurses come in, before the doctors come in, those are the people who are really on the first line of defense. They are the people who provide the quickest response to our people on the ground. And most of our people who have brought us to this house reside in the countryside. So the fact that we are recognizing this caliber of people and who do this work for free. If you walk to most of these counties, these community health volunteers, or we have been calling them community health workers, but I can see the term has now changed to community health volunteers. They work for free, with no pay, with no pay, Mr. Speaker. And yet when you talk to people at the community level, these are the people they recognize. These are the people they will always run to when they have an healthy issue. So it's really good and very commendable, Mr. Speaker, that we are now coming up with a law that will incorporate these people and have them recognized by an act of Parliament. It's very good, Mr. Speaker, that we have done away with that issue of calling them workers, because last time I did state on the floor of this House that some of these community health workers or volunteers people who have retired. They are retired people. They are really not there for money, but when you start saying that they should be remunerated, be given a salary, when you bring in the issues of salary, remuneration, commission, or the county public service boards, you lock out most of these people. And yet they are the engines of provision of community health services. So it's very good, Mr. Speaker, that that has now been taken care of in this bill, and that will not be a matter for us to belabor anymore. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that now there is a very clear structure on how these people will be dealt with at the community level. Initially, we had concerns with CEC Health. I think that has now been dealt with, and that's very good. We need a director, somebody with the technical knowledge, who can have a direct link with these people. That is really, really good. So, in general, Mr. Speaker, this bill has really been improved from the version that was read before the House last time, and I think it's worth noting that we can now process and take it forward to the next level. The other thing I wanted to talk about, Mr. Speaker, is that when we say that there should be good budgetary allocation for these services, we want to urge our governors not to just concentrate on level 4s or level 5s, but also think about the common mwananchi, you know, the person at the village level, who most of the time does not even have the resources to go and seek services, health services at level 4 hospitals. And remember that the people who end up going to level 4 are those who have maybe gone to the level 1, level 2, they proceed on to level 3, and finally they end up going to level 4. So I hope that our governors will have a keen interest on the work that is done by the community health volunteers, and make attempts to make adequate budgetary provisions for the work that is done by this very important sector of people in the provision of health services to our people. Since, as I've said, Mr. Speaker, most of the concerns I had last time have been taken on board, I support this bill and hope that we can process it quickly so that it becomes an act of Parliament during this term of the Senate. I support. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Senators. I therefore call upon the mover to reply.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply, and I think Senator Omugeni has said it all. This is not a bill only just sponsored by Senator Zani and other stakeholders. It's a bill that finally has had input from public participation. It was one of the bills that had the highest number of organizations and individuals coming during public participation. The inputs that were put into this bill at the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker, were very critical and very, very important. The diversity of balancing the reality and how to move forward was of great consideration, and Senator Omugeni will remember this, because we were trying to come up with a schema that will actually be able to be effective within the various counties. Without that, we would not have been able to get there. The Committee of Health has put in a lot of input in this bill, again through public participation and various discussions. I think we have a version of the bill now that we feel represents what we hope we can be able to see within the counties, that we will change things. It is Professor Ongeri who very eloquently said that the cost of healthcare is actually halved because of community health services. If you can address measles, you can address TB, you can address any problem at the lowest level, even as it begins when people with its children and its community, then it's much easier. Then you don't even have to go to level 5 and level 6. You find most of the issues that have been addressed. And I think members have also mentioned that, especially during the COVID pandemic, strengthening of such structures would have been very, very key. Certain countries were mentioned worldwide at this moment in terms of the input they've made. Germany, I think Sweden was one of them, and most of them have used this model. Indeed, in some quarters, it's referred to as the Cuba model, where you strengthen the basic and the basis of the communities, and once you have that running. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, the provisions in Clause 11 are very, very important and very, very key. The responsibilities that are given to this key group of young people and older people who are involved in being community health volunteers is very, very critical for service delivery at the various levels. When you're looking at issues like, for example, sensitizing the community, when you're looking at issues as providing community disease surveillance by reporting early signs of imminent health disasters or emergencies. They live within their communities, they have experience, they know the historical background, therefore they can really be able to preempt and stop by early signal warning systems a problem that is coming within the community. So we move towards preventive rather than curative in a very diabolic and very significant manner. Enrolling and monitoring the health status of members of the households, you know, on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis, making the record, discussing this, having the barazas, discussing what the issues are, and how to circumvent. They've dealt in many cases even with people living with disabilities. We know certain households where such children are put away and they're not taken care of, but they're able to go there and be able to give suggestions. In fact, in many cases, they are very key opinion leaders within communities. What they say is actually taken as very, very important. Keeping and maintaining a register of members so that they can actually remember where they have gone to, what the problems were. So when we're talking about capacity building and training, we're talking about the importance of these community health volunteers at the level of community health services, being able to have these key skills that are very, very critical. Providing appropriate health advice to assigned households in a language that members understand. And Mr. Speaker, it's not just about a language. A lot of times it's about the confidence that you have. One, these are people who have worked in the community, they have success stories. So people run to them or they go to these people, and when they see them and they see what happened and what worked, then it makes it easier. Some of these solutions are very simple. If it is malaria, for example, the putting of the nets, the ensuring that ponds are clear, are things that communities can be mobilized to do very well. And the consequences of not doing that are so high. For Kenya, in terms of an economy that wants to ensure that health issues are taken care of, if we're in a position to halve that cost, And it is possible by just having basic healthcare systems at level 1 taken care of. The strategy is very, very important and very, very key. So this bill is not introducing something that is not there. It's just introducing a component that has not been tackled in terms of legislation, as has happened in the Health Act. The Health Act tends to focus on level 2 up to level 6, but the provision of level 1 really needs to be encouraged even more. Providing appropriate healthcare advice, appropriate sanitation, hygiene, good nutrition, maternal and postnatal care, prevention of transmission and management of communicable diseases. Sometimes it's not even as difficult as we imagine. You know, if it is diarrhea, if it is cholera, given the specific provisions of what needs to be done. And in the case of COVID, also given the suggestions, the gloves, the mask, the social distancing. One of the things we tend to rely on a lot are messages that are given from the media. But if you look at communities, how many members are able to get these messages from the TV and from the radio? So we have a component of people, if they are able to be enhanced further within the counties, then they'll be able to do so well. It was, I think, Senator Faria who said they are actually the first responders within the communities. And she spoke of the need to harmonize their responsibilities and their incentives, and for them to be encouraged. And Senator Omugeni has echoed the same thing, that this is like a treasure that we have, that we can actually be able to utilize to fight for health outcomes which are devolved and which are so well captured in the Constitution in terms of them being a right, but we also know that a healthy nation will also turn into better economic incentives and better development. Rendering first aid, monitor the growth of children under 5 years old, provide support for assigned households in terms of quality, family-based care and support of the patient, submit report at intervals so that these outcomes can be determined and they can be discussed. So I think what has been missing is the hierarchy of a structure that enables this participation to be effective. That structure definitely starts at the ministry with the cabinet secretary of the ministry, but at the national level, we also switch to the county level and give key responsibility to the governors, the council of governors within those counties, the CEC members, the county assembly members. We were in Mombasa recently, Mr. Speaker, where we had Honorable Abdul Samad setting up a program or giving out to members of MVITA an NHIF program that allows for them to be able to reach out for these health outcomes. Once these health outcomes are determined and they are very easy to project, then it's very easy to be able to put into place a scheme. You'll find that in many of the developed countries, the developmental strategy is hinged on health, it's hinged on education. And I think we've done a lot at the level of education. We've also done a lot at the level of health, but there's a way that we can input, especially by looking at community health services at the level 1 position, and be able to improve this even further. Analyzing information on health status of assigned household, what seems to be recurring, what seems to be, need to be paid attention, performing of functions as may be assigned by the county executive committee member. I felt it was important, Mr. Speaker, that as I respond, that I capture even better the role of these such key players within the various counties. And I think it was Senator Faria also who stated that it's very important to ensure that the regulations are time-bound, and I think at delegated level we'll be trying to do that. Professor Ongeri brought it out very, very clearly that the devolved village levels are the game changer. We need to go to those devolved village levels. We need to be able to entrench this. We need to bring about inclusivity and equality of provision health care to the communities. We need to have health expenses go down because we can have a model that can bring this together. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, I just want also to thank Senator Omugeni for his contribution and also the role that him and other members of his team have played in ensuring that the provisions of Article 110.3 are put into provisions for the operationalization of legislative agenda, both at the Senate and in the National Assembly. And it is as a result of this, and as I said, we're able to come back with these bills and hope that we can expedite these bills so that we can be able to move them to the next level. We want these bills to be the game changers within the communities. We want to have healthy communities. We want to find that we have healthy children. Mr. Speaker, it's a well-known fact, just like in agriculture, we have almost 80% of people residing in the rural areas. I remember there's a time we went on a Senate trip and we went to a certain village, and there was a young girl who was not feeling well. She was actually very, very ill. And I think one of the members had carried a basic kit of Panadols, and they gave that child some Panadol. Within 2 minutes, the child was plain. Mr. Speaker, there are people who have lost their lives because the basic tenets of just being able to be found within community health services, either through community health care workers, community health volunteers, or even at the level of the county, they haven't been able to gain. There are counties, on the other hand, that they have progressed. We have up to about 4 specific counties that have already moved on. As Senator Faria had indicated later, the need for these regulations and the need for even legislation at the county level, we have 4 counties already, including Nairobi County, that have already put provisions into place. So really we're calling upon the other counties that haven't and the county assemblies that haven't done this to expeditiously try to get there. I think this is a win-win at the level of the individuals, it's a win-win at the level of county, it's a win-win at the level of the national government. So as I second, I wish to thank Senator Ongeri, Senator Faria, Senator Faki, who also brought the very strong point about some of the antisocial habits that have health implications and how this can be dealt at this level. It is usually not mentioned loudly, but many times the community health volunteers also work as counselors of sort, because they're able to talk, they're able to interpret, they're able to bring into focus the specific considerations that are very, very key in ensuring that all these issues have been addressed. And also last, Senator Omugeni, in their contributions that they have made. Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply and request that we defer the putting of the question as per Standing Order 61.3 to another appropriate time. I thank you and I beg to reply. Thank you.
Honorable Senators, I therefore defer putting of question until tomorrow afternoon. Next order.
Order number 18, the Investment Promotion Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 2 of 2021, second reading.
Dr. Milgo, not present. The order is deferred. Next order.
Order number 19, the County Licensing Uniform Procedures Bill, Senate Bills number 32 of 2020, second reading.
Senator Chebeni, not present. Order deferred. Next order.
Order number 20, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 31 of 2020, second reading.
Chairperson, Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. Chairperson not present. Order deferred. Next order.
Order number 21, motion, adoption of the report of the Standing Committee on Health on inquiry into allegations of irregularities by the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority in procurement of pharmaceutical equipment.
Chairperson, Standing Committee on Health. Chairperson not present. Order deferred. Next order.
Order number 22, Motion, adoption of the report of the Standing Committee on Health on the COVID-19 pandemic situation in Kenya.
Chairperson, Standing Committee on Health. Order deferred. Next order.
Order number 23. Motion, adoption of the report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations concerning the impasse on the budgetary estimates for financial year 2020-2021 for Kirinyaga County between the County Executive and the County Assembly.
Chairperson, Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations. Chair not present. Order deferred. Next order. That is the end. Honorable Senators, as you have noted, these items that have been deferred have been prioritized over other business. It's not before the House. We therefore urge all members who are not present today to be present in the next subsequent sitting so that business is dispensed. Thank you. Honorable Senators, having concluded the business of today, I therefore adjourn the House until tomorrow, 2:30 p.m., 7th July, 2021.